They definitely do, and when you look at the Eastern crowd and when you look at their chat, they're cheering them even maybe harder than Virtus.pro. They believe in this team, and so far, yeah, they're a bunch of pubbers that have stacked together, but they're also good with each other. They're friends for a really long time, and I think there's something to that chemistry. I think they can make OG think twice in their series.
A bunch of pubbers. Are you going to live to regret that quote?
Look, we were all a bunch of pubbers initially. That's how we all started, right? That was it.
Yeah, but when we started, we were not top 6 at TI.
That's also true.
Yeah.
That's also very true. But a year ago or so, when they stacked together, it was a similar situation. Now, obviously, it's very different.
I think it's Cap who said that basically this is a lineup that will win the international, just not necessarily this year. But maybe they're going to prove everyone wrong. Maybe it's going to be them.
Is it them that are first when it comes to the youngest squad, or is it VP?
It's VP.
It's VP, yeah, but they're really close as well.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Sorry, I got confused then. I thought you were talking about VP, you were talking about Spirit. They're one and the same to me. That's terrible, isn't it? They're not really. That was a joke. It's okay. We're allowed to make jokes because we haven't kicked off the main matches yet. Instead, what we're going to do actually is we're going to talk some stats. We're going to look at the leaderboard for TI10 so far. We're going to have a look at some tasty facts this morning for you to snack on our TI10 leaders. So, I mean, Virtus.pro there, Nightfall and GPK. The cause, godlike sprees, kills, insanity.
Yeah, overall, they have a lot of good stats on their side, even their supports. Like, this is what we see, but assists, when you look at the supports, the Safe and Kingslayer, the two of them, I think they average on 17 each. So this whole team works together really, really well, and GPK and Nightfall just grab the glory and get the top.
It really highlights that playstyle where GPK is just going around hunting for these kills, making plays, while Nightfall, the reason he gets these godlike sprees is he's not dying. So he's being really well protected, set up for success. And the other standout player there, I mean, Thompson, Owen, you mentioned him yesterday, he was absolutely insane. Yeah,
I'd be interested to see sort of who was second on some of the most damaged heroes, because I probably imagine Thompson's quite far ahead of even the second place. You know, this man is just... He barely hits creeps. He's just in your face and destroying you from minute 10. Yeah, earlier sometimes.
How much of that 600,000 plus damage do you think was done in that series yesterday?
Quite a good amount. Yeah, he definitely pumped up his stats. Yeah, for sure. You know, still these 20 kills, 2 deaths at least in one of the games. I mean, yeah, this guy's crazy when it comes to getting the momentum. I think we saw yesterday two just incredible momentum players in the mid lane, Thompson and of course GPK in that series. Just some of these guys, when they get that sort of start, there's just no stopping them. They just completely take over the game, and it's very impressive to watch.
Any other players that we should be looking out for in today's matches?
Like we already saw Fly from IG. We've seen him keeping that record pretty damn high so far. I think him and Emo are the ones to watch. Maybe put them in your fantasy cards today.
For me, I'll say 2 plays, Ice and Crit. I think they're like the scariest off-laner 4-position combo in the tournament. You know, EG, they're in the lower bracket. They had that poor group stage, but I think they're a team that can make a deep run.
You know what, Lizard? You've reminded me of something when you referenced the compendium then. Crimson Witness. Have you got your drops yet? If you bought a ticket to TI10, you have the chance of getting one of those sweet, sweet chests. So make sure you head to dota2.com/Crimson Witness and register there. And then you've got the chance to get drops whenever First Blood happens. Have you got some nice chests? Have you got any items dropping your way?
No, I haven't. Val, step it up. I've been here 2 days. I haven't had a single drop, so come on.
Me too.
Some of my colleagues, they've got 5. I've had none. Unacceptable. I'm not coming back next year.
Anti-British bias. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Nothing.
I'm also angry. I've got nothing as well. Do you think people will take pity on us and send us things?
I hope so. I'll be checking today. If I don't get any today, I'll be having words.
Send us nice things, please. Now, that horn means we're only a couple of minutes away from our first 2 teams taking to the stage. It's going to be Alliance and T1. And it's going to be a really interesting one, I think, especially on the Alliance side, because they didn't exactly have the best group stage, but they're holding on after a spectacular performance against Beast Coast. We're going to be talking about that soon. But are there any surprises that have really happened for you on the main stage out there so far, guys?
Not necessarily when it comes to the outcome of the games, but perhaps on the way the outcome happened. Spirit and VP just completely dominating and proving that Eastern Europe is a really strong region at the moment, even though they brought a bunch of youngsters to TI. Maybe that's kind of surprising. Also, T1 playing extremely well versus PSG LGD.
Yeah, T1 looks very scary. I'd also, at Beast Coast, maybe disappointing on the main stage, because their group stage was really solid. They took games off some of the top teams, so to see them just fall so flat and play kind of very uninspired in an elimination game was a bit disappointing.
Yeah, I've got to agree with Parker. I think, yeah, that sort of loss from Beast Coast was definitely the sort of the most surprising. We've seen these players before in very, tense situations, and they have performed, and it just didn't happen the other day in a best of one. And of course, in a best of one, that's it. Goodbye. It hurts, but I'm sure we'll see the squad come back stronger in the future. They can definitely achieve much better than this.
So what's the most exciting thing about this matchup that we're about to see between Alliance and T1?
There's two squads with very similar strategies clashing. You have two captains on position 3 in the offlane, Master Cuckoo versus S4. We have two extremely strong carry players as well. 23 Savage facing off versus Nico Baby. And remember, Nico Baby, he's played SEA. He's played in the SEA. He was a part of Mineski. He understands the region really well. And it's always nice to have an insider when you're playing versus a team from the region.
Yeah, and I think even for SCA fans, they have a bit of a soft spot for Alliance because of Nico Baby, how he got Mineski to TI. So they're, in some ways, always were hoping that Alliance would do well at TI, but now they're going up against the last SCA hope. So, unfortunately, that probably is going to mean they're going to be jumping on the T1 bandwagon and leaving Nico Baby on the side of the street.
I have a feeling, though, it's not going to be a sweetheart clash. They're not going to be kind to each other out there once they get to those booths. I'll
be honest, I'm going into this series, I'm a little concerned for Alliance. I really think that T1 is incredible, and Alliance, they're going to struggle big time.
Okay, well, we're going to find out if OD Pixel is correct, because it's time for Alliance versus T1. Alliance are heading back out onto the main stage here at the International. Some people thought after a disastrous group stage that they wouldn't be entitled to set foot out there, but they came back fighting against Beast Coast in their best of one earlier this week. And now they're finding themselves, they're finding their joy. And of course, please welcome T1, the last team standing from the SEA region. But you can be very, very hopeful and proud of this team if you're watching them. Yesterday on the desk, they were predicted to make the top 4. This team is never going to be seen as an underdog again. They are family, and they fight as family and really put up a fight against LGD yesterday. So do not underestimate them. Just because they like to take things slow doesn't mean you should rest easy when you're head-to-head with them on that stage. But will they make it through today, or will they be heading home? We'll soon be seeing as they take to their booth. And there we have it. Alliance safely in their booth. They looked so comfortable there yesterday, and we are going to be talking more about them in a moment. But first of all, we're going to be catching up with a bit of a legend in the Dota 2 scene. It's their captain, S4.
S4 has played with some of the best players and teams in Dota history, but has yet to relive the success of winning it all with Alliance at TI3. 8 years and a few other teams later, S4 has returned to Alliance, an organization now managed in part by some of his former TI3 teammates. Gustav is playing for his old team with new blood. which is one of the things he says made him want to return to competitive Dota after taking a few months off.
This was kind of the first break I've had in forever since I started Dota. I've never really taken a break, so I felt like I was way worse at the game.
How have you changed as a captain over the years?
I know that's gonna sound weird, but sometimes you need to like kind of say no to people, and for me that's something I've tried to improve on, and I feel like I've become a little bit better on that.
I have some questions to ask you that you're probably not going to like. Is that all right?
No.
Dream League Season 15, Western Europe DPC is Alliance.
One of the bigger stories surrounding Alliance this season was their use of PPD as a temporary captain over the course of a month.
Getting more?
Our throne is in trouble. Our throne's in a little bit of trouble.
I can push it.
Yeah, I think that's it, guys. GG. GG.
Specifically during the Animajor qualifiers, where event organizers emailed teams to let them know coaches would be allowed in the room during the games.
When I first contacted him, it was because of a reason, right? We were gonna use him in game. This is a bit controversial. However, this is how I understood it. That I feel like other teams are gonna use this to their advantage. So I better get to it early to practice for TI if this is gonna happen.
So you brought PPD on as a result of reading that email?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Not beforehand. Interesting. Okay. And so what was your reaction to the way that that ended up playing out?
I was actually surprised that other teams were not using their coach already. In my mind, everyone was using it, but actually nobody was using it. So then I was like, oh, are we the bad guys now? I guess we're the bad guys. But yeah, in that sense, it looks a bit unfair. And I agree with some of them, but we just did what we thought was best for the current situation.
Despite the controversy, Alliance shifted focus back to their main goal, making it to TI-10. S4 not only knows how it feels to play at an international, but also how it feels to win.
Limp and Handskin, I know, haven't been to a TI before. What sticks out in your mind about what that feels like as a player? How are you communicating that with your teammates to prepare them for that feeling?
I'm always going to say that they need to enjoy the ride, kind of, and don't focus on down the line what's going to happen. Just focus on now and what you're going to do next. And yeah, enjoy the journey also.
Did you enjoy the journey?
Definitely. I mean, it's a rough journey, but it's not really regret. But I feel like at the end of it, you kind of look back and you're like, I could really like push myself to actually win another TI or 2 more TIs, you know, just be the best that I can be, kind of.
ODPixel, you have been casting S4 in different teams for years now. What is so special about this captain?
I mean, just the fact that, you know, even after all these years, even though still nowadays his play is a little volatile, he can still have those games where the magic returns. You know, it's sort of the same S4 from the past, and he can still just sort of come out with these crazy moves, these initiations, and you know as well that the players around him, they just, I mean, you know, you hear sort of his demeanor. He's a very calm gentleman. He's very good at keeping the players just focused, making sure that no one lets the emotions get to them. You know, this man, as we saw, he's been there. He's been at the top. He's been all the way through tournaments such as TI. And something like that at TI, just compared to any other events, it's just invaluable to have as part of your squad.
Yeah, the fact that he can make all those flashy plays still, not perhaps every single game, but most of them, and at the same time control his teammates, it's something incredible. You would like to have S4 on your team no matter in which team you are, because I remember a couple of years back, I was playing in a league and someone is playing mid, S4 is on offlane, and S4 is telling my mid laner what to do while he's still winning his lane. This guy is seeing the whole map at all times, and that's not something that every single player can do.
Yeah. And the calm demeanor you mentioned, Frankie, that's been, I think, key for keeping this team together, what they went through. You know, they're getting a lot of hate from the community. You know, there are a lot of people who are also on their side for the whole thing, but, you know, that would have completely, like, crippled a lot of teams. So he really helped keep them together.
And it's really interesting as well. It was mentioned in that interview that not all of these members have actually been to a TI before. For me, the most surprising one is Hanskin's never been to a TI.
Yeah, so far hasn't been to one. This is the first, and probably some emotions are running pretty damn high here. But he does have seasoned captain, like we mentioned, next to him to cool those emotions off. And also FNG that we haven't mentioned. He was extremely popular for a decent while in the Eastern Europe region because of captaining VP to the same TI. I believe S4 plus FNG, they bring a lot of equanimity to the team at this stage.
Yeah, and they're the only team here without a coach. I think that's kind of the crazy thing is like they've decided they've got enough strong voice, and when you've got two, veteran seasoned captains, they feel like they don't need that outside or that, that sixth voice in the team anymore. So it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
And Hanskin also has captaincy experience. So you don't have a coach, but you have an extremely respected, knowledgeable captain in S4. And then you have a support duo that also like to control and have input into the tempo of the game, although obviously they know S4 is boss. What can you guys tell me about the support duo of Hanskin and FNG?
Well, FNG, he's always been the most classic, old school position 5 coming from the Eastern Europe region. You won't really be expecting him to be playing some crazy heroes like Pango and Tidehunter and whatnot, but he will bring stability to any single lane. And one thing that I've noticed back in the day while playing against him, this guy has a metronome in his head that just works a little bit faster than anyone else's, and all the moves that he makes them just slightly faster than you. So even if you can predict what he's about to be doing, you can't predict just how fast. And because of that, all of his teams have done movements correctly and a little bit faster than you, at least in my case. But then again, you got
the old man reflexes.
Yeah, I'm a boomer.
Yeah, and I'd say for Hanskin, he to me is the player on this Alliance team who's improved the most over the last year or two. He was a player I always looked at who was trying to play 4 position, but he looked more like a 5. I never saw him as that like flashy, high skill support player that could make the plays you need on the 4 position role. But the reason Alliance, have done so on the DPC leagues, even though they didn't do all the majors, was largely because of Hanskin's improved play on so many different heroes.
And before we do start talking about T1, I do also want to ask about Nico Baby. How is his team setting him up for success, Owen?
I mean, it's very clear a lot of the times that they do specifically pick things that are just going to enable Nico Baby, give him that space and allow him to... Well, one of my favorites from him, of course, is his Faces Void. Just sort of play these carry heroes that can just have huge impact in the fights. A lot of the time, I'm pretty sure Nico Baby probably takes the lead in a lot of the team fights on the comms. You sometimes hear snippets of it in the videos that the Alliance upload at the progress or the practicing back at their training facility. That he's a very vocal carry, and that's something that you need. And you need him to have that confidence to stay at that level of sort of making those shot calls when he's out here on the main stage. And I believe that Nico Baby's able to do that.
There might be, even when we're looking at these heroes of TI, there might actually be quite a bit of overlap between T1 and Alliance. If you're Alliance, are you going to be trying to get your comfort picks here, or are you going to be trying to surprise and maybe avoid these pairings that we're seeing?
I think for sure a little bit of both. At this stage, you're aiming at your comfort picks, but you will also try to mix things up a little bit and throw T1 off. So usually what we've seen from Alliance so far is that they haven't truly strayed away from their schematics. If there's a puck on that mid lane, they're picking that DK instantly. Yeah. If there's a Mirana or a Monkey King possible for Hanskin, they might snatch it. So nothing really extraordinary when it comes to the drafts. Where I'm really looking at is the gameplay and the execution from Alliance.
Well, why don't we have a look at the figures in terms of heroes for T1, just to see if we do have any comparison in terms of what they're picking. And obviously the Snapfire pick. I feel like this is the favorite hero of every team right now. Yeah,
it's like one of the most played heroes. It's just so stable, kind of fits into any draft. It just gives you a little bit of everything. So probably going to be contested. I think that first hero, Lina, that's been perhaps Limp's best hero, even though it wasn't in Alliance's
for a really long time.
Yeah,
as well, right?
So I think this Lina is going to play a really big part in this series, or it's just going to be banned. So these two teams either going to be picking in the first phase or having to prepare, an answer for it in the mid lane. Definitely something to look out for.
Interesting. And also the Crystal Maiden pick, I feel like that tells us a lot about the way that T1 likes to run their supports. It seems like they're very into their backline. They're not really up to, kind of getting up close into their AoEs, their stuns.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Your Crystal Maidens, your Weavers, they've been playing a lot of these heroes that like to be on the outskirts, the Disruptor, the Lion as well. So they tend to play the game that way, in which Whitemon and Zephyr are not necessarily the first one running in. And that's enabled because of the Doom pick, perhaps, that we've just seen. Not many teams have these mid laners that are just bulky and just want to be frontlining constantly every single fight. I believe Karl is the one that enables supports to be on the outskirts of team fights.
Now, if you are in Team T1 and you're looking back at those matches against LGD yesterday, what are the key takeaways? What are the things you're hoping to kind of focus on so that you can guarantee yourself a spot in the next stage of TI? Gods?
I think where T1 look good is when they have that like kind of meta carry, like they play really well around like the Medusa, for example, and these supports that can really have a high impact on the lanes. I think T1 look their best when they're coming out of the laning stage and are able to make a lot of plays around the map, particularly around Karl. You mentioned like the Doom where he's really good. These heroes that can kind of come online and hit this kind of early to mid game timings and then put their opponents on the back foot.
How does that compare to the pace that Alliance likes to set?
I mean, I think, Alliance, they'll be happy to sort of match the action that the T1's going to be bringing them. This game sort of just making sure that Nico Baby's out of harm's way, getting Limp on these mids that's more than happy to sort of stand tall in the mid lane if any fights get brought his way, or quick to react to any sort of side lane plays. And I think, Alliance, they're really going to have to fully focus on making sure that they don't let T1 get ahead of them early. Because in this sort of matchup, if Alliance gets behind coming out the laning stage, I think against T1, this team's just so hard to come back against after a lost early game.
Yeah, you think that puts some pressure on Alliance, perhaps? Just crush them in the laning stage, no matter what? Is that the mindset that you think they're going in?
I think so, but I think Alliance, they are a team that can deal with that sort of pressure. I don't think they're going to be necessarily feeling that. I think they're going to be coming in confident, very cool-headed. Sort of my concern for Alliance is that T1, on the other hand, I just see sort of T1, this TI, they seem to have the same sort of energy to me that you saw sort of when OG won their first TI.
Yeah.
They're coming out, they're laughing, they're smiling, and they're playing just some of the best Dota that they've been able to bring out. Sure, they got knocked down here to the lower bracket, but taking a game off LGD, like, this team is really, really good. I hope we get a close series, but I would not be surprised if we do just see T1 roll over Alliance here.
It's so true. I saw T1 at breakfast, and I said hi, and they were chatting. I was sitting at a table. They were singing and laughing, and they were so carefree.
I just love this because I've been following these guys for 2 seasons in the DPC, right? And Whitemon is the one that puts the key in ignition and just lights things up. He's the one always smiling. He's just having a blast every single time, no matter what. Every single game that we watched or interviewed him, he's just a pleasure to be around, and it's very reminiscent of Jerax in OG.
Sounds like music to my ears, Lizard. Now let's talk about S4 versus Cuckoo. We've got our off-lane captains. What is the difference between these two, if we were to put them head-to-head?
I would say... Oh, no, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. No, you
You're so kind to each other. I'm just going to go to Lizard in a second. Gods, you go because you're in the middle.
I would say Cuckoo's a bit more stable with his play, but at the same time, they both can have very hot and cold games. I think Cuckoo's got a better ability to take over games with a good start. S4 a bit more stable. You kind of know what you're getting. Playing more of kind of maybe the more team fight centric heroes, whereas Cuckoo sometimes will go off a different direction, play some kind of Bat Rider, something more farm heavy. So they do have a fairly different hero pool at times.
All right. So, predictions then. It seems like you're all going the way of T1.
A little bit, I believe, right? Are you guys
a little
the
bit?
same?
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be super. I think Alliance being underestimated by a lot of people, but T1, they took a game off PSG LGD. That's something very few people have done here at TI, so I have to favor T1 based
And they also made it feel competitive throughout all 3 games. It's not like they just took one off and that's it. The whole series looked nice.
If you're Alliance right now, and you're looking at what T1 were playing yesterday against LGD, what are you trying to do in terms of the build you're going to be doing and the things you're going to be drafting overall? Obviously, we're going to try draft panels soon, but what is the overall thing that you're trying to achieve?
I think the best way to go about it would maybe try and copy everything that PSG LGD has done, because it obviously works for them. Trying to just negate T1 their strengths is also nice. Maybe getting rid of that dome in the early stages, picking and dissecting the way they move across the map and the way they protect 23 Savage could prove to be really good for Alliance, because the way T1 likes to play is they're all about protecting 23 and his farm. That's something that they've adopted ever since they got him into the squad, which was well at the end of the first season of the DPC.
I'm also kind of curious about the attitude of Alliance, because S4 in his interview after their win against Beast Coast the other day, he was saying that basically they learnt a lot from groups and they came really well prepared. And basically the key to their win was the fact that they decided to have some fun and not have nerves. It almost seems like a T1 approach. Is that going to be enough, though? Both teams having fun.
I don't think it's ever enough by itself. You need the kind of skill and strategy to back it up. But when you're at TI, the playing field is so even that being in the right mindset, having that kind of mental edge can play such a big part in any game. And I disagree a bit with Lizard. Like you mentioned, like, you know, play more like PSG. I think Alliance, the best thing they can do is just play Alliance Dota.
Okay.
Like, I don't think they want to go away from their comfort picks, their play style. They don't look at what other teams did to beat T1. Just they have to play their game, or things will quickly fall apart. When you're at TI, if you're trying to change your play style overnight.
In the past, Limp has been criticised and seen as great for laning, but not much beyond the game in the mid. Is that true? Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of these mids that sometimes in the matchup, he'll just look unbeatable. Like, he turns up and he'll completely dominate the enemy mid. And he normally he can turn that into like sort of this fantastic momentum. But I think there's just been a few games where Limp can get a little bit ahead of himself. Like, he'll have that fantastic start, but then suddenly, just a bit of an overextension or a dive a little too far, and it ends up costing the team a lot. And these sort of mistakes you're not going to get away with when you're playing against a team like T1, who will immediately capitalize on them. So it's just, again, for me, for Alliance, it's just that volatility sort of across the board. Like, they can really hit it right, but when they don't, it's just, it falls apart very, very quickly. So they've got to make sure that they don't have those sort of early errors.
Yeah, if you take some concise comparison between Limp on a Lina and Limp, let's say, on a DK. On his Lina that we mentioned earlier, he can completely crush the lane. But if you're out of position one of two team fights, your whole game falls apart. However, when you're playing that Dragonite and you slowly win the lane, then your whole team converges around you and you're the focal point of your team fight, then Alliance looks a lot stronger, and so does Limp.
And what do we mean by the phrase beautiful Dota? Because I've also heard Alliance being described as a team that gives good, beautiful Dota. Gods, what does that mean? Because my games are never beautiful.
For me, when I hear it, it's like you, as a viewer, as a commentator, you're watching, and every move makes sense. Like, there's a clear purpose that you just see, like the rotations when they're, like, for example, collapsing around certain objectives, like the power runes. They're setting traps. They're making smokes at the right times. Being in the right place to contest a Roshan. So to me, I always look at the movement of heroes around the map, and when they're playing alone, when they're syncing up together, and that's something that Alliance on their best days do really well, but a lot of the time it can also look a bit more disjointed.
Now, I wish we could pull up some highlights from yesterday's match between LGD and T1, because I do think it still bears talking about, especially the second game in that 3-game series, where we saw a 10-man buyback fight, and all the couriers also coming back online as well. I feel like that might be one of the most memorable moments of TI, of the main stage so far.
I don't think I've ever seen that, ever.
No, never.
Not even at TI, like any tournament.
Any tournament, any single TI, not even
any pub games.
Not even in pubs.
Any Dota games, full stop. Yeah.
That was incredible. Yeah. And it was so enjoyable to watch that game and just be a part of it. T1 versus PSG LGD definitely did put a mark on the whole main event.
Do you think that the reason that T1 couldn't pull it back in that last game was just kind of LGD just saying, okay, right, we need to take things up a notch? Do you think it was down to that Ursa? What do you think was the thing that really knocked T1 out of the running?
LGD definitely did step it up a little bit at the end, but at the same time, they did allow T1 to have all of the good stuff in the second game, and they struggled against it. However, once you negate a couple of those heroes, which I assume Alliance will do in their first draft over here as well, then it does become a little bit easier.
And I think the scary thing with LGD is they're not just like a momentum team. When they lose a game, they learn a lot and adapt quickly. I think there are some teams, you know, one of the big examples always EG, once their drafts maybe get figured out, they can't adapt as fast. But for LGD, with Zhao Wei, it just feels like they lose a game and they come back twice as strong the game afterwards, typically.
Apparently, we're having a few technical issues on stage right now. They're just fixing some audio issues. So apologies for the delay. We are going to try and get you into the match as soon as possible. Don't panic. But I want to talk about also T1's T1 drafts. That's how Game 2's draft was described with the Medusa and Doom combo. What makes a T1 draft and why does it work so well with their playstyle?
It's usually kind of greedy, like you mentioned. Like the Doom made it feels like it's a bit more on the greedy side, but they have these support, like these backlining supports that can be very active, dish out a lot of damage, and take advantage of the fact that like all 3 cores on T1 get kind of farmed. I feel like that's what I would say about them.
Yeah, 100%. Cuckoo is perhaps sometimes a little bit more sacrificial. He can be greedy if he gets that Doom or Bat like we talked about before, but if there is a Doom on mid lane and Medusa on the safe lane, he will play that full playmaker role with Zephyr and Whitemon and create as much space as possible. But I think when you give them heroes that they've played 1,000 times each, Karl, every single game in the DPC season, Doom was either banned from him or he picked it. So when you have such full comfort zone, it doesn't matter what the matchup is. It doesn't matter how greedy you are, because you will find a way to play it, to make it work in the game.
Is T1 just going to outright ban Doom? Is that what you're expecting, Owen?
Alliance, I think.
Alliance, I'm so sorry.
That's right. I think Alliance, I think they will. I mean, as you say, it's kind of funny that we sort of get to this international level and you see some teams not really following the same sort of strats that teams were doing against them in the regional sort of level. You know, it's sort of as if they're looking in elsewhere. And I think, you know, you have to look back to, as you say, what people were doing back in the DPC. Because it's looking a little too good. I think for me, the Lina is still prioritized higher. The games that he's had on that in the mid lane, he's almost as if it's a straight up second carry. It's just like this insurance. Sure, 23 Savage is also having an incredible game, but you've got these 2 heroes that are just dishing out ridiculous amounts of damage in the team fight, just at an unbearable level. So I think if Alliance let the Lina get through, they're going to have a really tough time.
And what's up with all the coaches exiting the booth and then being like, yeah, this draft is easy. We let them have their best heroes. So far, every single draft, after the draft, the post interview with the coach, he would be like, yeah, we knew what they're going to pick, but we let them. You know, we prepared for it. And I'm not sure if that's the right approach. And look at those smiles. That's Whitemon right there taking the punches in the middle. Like, he's like, the mood is just so relaxed.
This is what's going to happen if we lose. No, this is.
I mean, maybe some play-by-play. It's over. The fight's over. No one won. KO to nobody. What a shame. I was hoping for some high-quality FGC casting on the desk there.
Yeah, Owen, if you want to...
Owen, it's going.
Oh, here we go. Are we playing hand slaps here?
He's going to get... Oh.
Here we go, Owen. Okay.
I don't even know how this game's played. What do you do? Just slap each other?
So Cuckoo seems to be going first. He's on the offense first.
No, he's not very good at this.
Warning his opponent.
You have to dodge the slap by doing the up and down.
I think he's teaching him how to play. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he doesn't want to play now.
Don't want to hurt your teammates' hands before it goes.
Yeah, probably the best idea, slapping the hell out of your hands before a TI game. I think they've been talked out of it.
Well,
maybe they're just short on hand warmers, you know, they're getting innovative.
Yeah, there it is.
Get those hands warm.
Sadly, Cuckoo is not going to be slapping his teammates' hands, but he did have a chat with Casey, I believe. So we're going to see what he had to say right now.
The season for T1 may have ended on a high note, but it certainly didn't start out that way. The team was looking forward to finally attending a LAN event with the Singapore major in March. But their captain, Cuckoo, was suddenly unable to go. T1, playing with a stand-in, failed to even make the main event. Like many other teams, the transition to in-person events proved challenging. But for Cuckoo, he says it's where he really thrives.
I did not play LAN for 1 year, and as a player, I really like to compete at LAN because the feeling is kind of unexplainable. unlike the online, it's like you can like just chill, watch some anime while playing tournament, something like that. But on LAN, you can feel that you cannot slack off or play like lazy.
How have you had to change your leadership style as a captain with everything being so different?
I think our coach helping me to improve as a captain. And at first, he's the one drafting for us. When the drafting also come back to me, I feel that I kind of step up a bit to perform well and to draft well for my team.
And when did you step back in to draft for your team?
DPC Season 2, the opening game. It's like my captains told me, "Hey, Ku, do you want to draft?" Something like that. I know my draft is good, better than March. Nah, just kidding. No, just kidding.
With Cuckoo drafting, T1 went on to finish first in Season 2 in their region, giving them a direct invite to the Animajor. And to earn enough points for a spot at TI-10, all they had to do was win one match.
Me and March keep talking to the boys that don't think about the TI and the result. Just keep thinking about the game. Don't focus so much like on TI. If we go to TI, you can think about the TI, right? But if we fail on Animajor, there's no direct invite for Southeast Asia.
Well, they won that match and kept on winning with a solid run that took them to the lower bracket finals, ending with a loss to EG that was so close it hurt. Still, after everything T1 went through this season, Cuckoo had led his team to a spot at TI.
Let's pretend you're in the grand finals of TI-10. Who do you want to play?
I want EG.
Why?
Because I want to see like so many Southeast Asian player on the grand finals. If EG and us is like on grand finals, we can put like 7 Southeast Asian players on one grand finals, and I think it's kind of good for our region. This is my 5th TI, I think, and most of my TI memories is like after upper bracket, we lose, then lose again. So if I'm gonna go back, I really want to raise the ages. As a player, as a captain, my goal for TI is like keep grinding and do my best.
Wow, you can see in their plays, especially obviously from yesterday's match against LGD, that truly T1 have been grinding. But is it going to be enough to get them through this lower bracket run? And are we going to see them play against Evil Geniuses? You want to see that, Lizard, surely?
Yeah, I would love to see it.
Can't happen in the finals, unfortunately, but it could still happen down bottom because they're both in lower bracket now.
So did I just say that I would like them to lose? Actually, they can continue here. It's the lower bracket.
Yeah,
sorry, they how many games do they have to win? Is it this one?
Probably next round they would meet.
Yeah.
Both teams win. Yeah.
I wonder if we can actually bring up the lower bracket, if that's possible, and then we can actually have a look at it and we can see how that would happen if it can happen in the lower bracket, because it would be kind of cool to see basically who's there. Thank you so much, production. You are the best. So we've got Team Spirit versus OG. And then...
So it would actually be the next round instantly.
Yes, yeah. So because their round 2 happened yesterday. So T1 versus Alliance, VG versus EG. So in other words, we could actually see that matchup in the next round.
We could see 7 SCA players play the game from EG versus T1. It would be hype. I would be really happy for the whole region as well, because it's so talented. Talking to any players, you know for a fact that their pubs are probably the most skilled, but also the most chaotic.
And they take a lot of pride. I mean, we saw it there several times when Cuckoo was talking about qualifying for TI. He's like, he knew if they didn't do well enough for the Animajor, you know, SCA may get one less slot at TI. So, you know, he wanted to do well and represent his region. Even looking at the SCA region, you have 2 players on T1 who are the first Indonesian players to play at TI. So it's a big deal for Indonesia, the country, for the whole SCA region, that they're kind of like the last hope for SCA to do well here at TI.
And it is a shame that we lost Fnatic in that match against Team Spirit yesterday. But at the same time, I mean, they made a player change just before their qualifier, and they still managed to make it through the best of ones here in the lower bracket as well, and make it through to a best of 3 on the main stage. So it seems like the future's looking bright for this region, Owen.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'll go straight up and say my bracket predictions. I have T1 winning this whole tournament. because I was just been so impressed with the improvement of them over the year, over the season. They came, what, third at the last major? They just took a game off LGD. That sort of sold me enough. I think at the least we're going to see them get to the grand finals, and I think they can absolutely do it. This would be the year for Cuckoo to finally step up to the right to the end here with an SEA squad.
That is, it's quite the endorsement from Mr. OD Pixel. Are they using your voice line in game?
And they shouldn't they? You know, yeah. Go T1 Cuckoo. You better buy my voice line.
This is why I'm excited to interview the players.
I've said
later.
I've shouted him out and cast enough. You know, it's time for him to shout me back. I feel like every single game that I cast T1, it's always like Cuckoo this, Cuckoo that, Cuckoo. He's just making so many plays and making all the moves. He's always getting us excited.
And they're letting me loose on the players later. So if you guys have got any requests, if you want me to talk to the players and just be like, hey, I've got these friends on the desk. They've got these cracking voice lines. I can just pitch them to you. They're going to be so annoying to your enemies. They're going to win you TI OG stuff. Who's in?
Sign me up. Yep.
Amazing. All right. Well, while we wait, I believe a PC has just been swapped out. We're going to have a little bit of fun here at TI because we have got a rapid fire session with Team Alliance.
Welcome back. More rapid fire questions coming your way. I'm joined by Nigo Baby. I'm here with FNG of Alliance. Welcome, my friend. Yes. Who is, in your opinion, the worst teammate in interviews?
That's a rough one. We're all pretty bad at this. So, it's hard to say.
What was the last thing you ate?
Fuck. The memory's so bad, you know?
You don't remember what you ate? FNG, what was the last thing you ate?
Bulba. Sorry, not the player. I mean, Bulba is a Belarus word for potato.
Potato?
Yes.
Okay.
Not the player. I'm sorry,
Bulba.
Bulba.
The potato.
I'm sorry, Bulba.
Everyone's going to keep that one going now. Can you tell us there, Limp, what about the last movie you watched?
Actually, we watched Dune together.
I wasn't really into the story so much, but 6 out of 10.
Oh, you're going to make a lot of Dune fans unhappy with that.
Wasn't my type that much.
And you know a lot of people are waiting to watch that movie, and you're one of the blessed
Yeah,
people
I
to
felt
watch
like they released it very early in Ukraine for some reason, but I'm not sure why.
Can you tell me the last person you called on the phone using your voice?
My brother. I mean, he was like, can you prepare better? I'm like, we're doing the best we can. He's like, did you prepare my strat offlane Medusa? I'm like, you don't understand Dota. No, I watch a lot of Dota. I mean, like, you know, typical browser who's like, he knows what you're doing, but he doesn't understand it at all.
What a family affair for Alliance there. And if you want to catch up with Dakota and the gang, he's involved in The Late Show with Mr. Piri and Flax. So check that out tonight. But also, I want to see movie reviews with Alliance. I mean, they were quite harsh on poor Jude.
They were really harsh. Did you watch it, guys?
I haven't seen it, but I'm excited
I haven't seen
to see
it as well. Yeah, I was waiting to go watch. I'm also in Ukraine, just like Alliance was, but I didn't go before TI. Now they kind of ruined it for me a little bit.
Whose fault is that? Yeah. Now you've got the spoiler, the storyline. It's a 6 out of 10 apparently.
Here I was hoping Alliance would do well, and now they're going off flaming June. They're dead to me.
Okay, so now you're saying T1. Who do you have winning your bracket again?
I had Secret EG in the finals.
Okay, it's a classic.
Yeah, it's a bit hopeful.
A bit hopeful. I mean, is it classic matchup? Is it a, you know, is it an uninspiring? Not uninspiring. It wouldn't be an uninspiring matchup at all. It's just something that I think a lot of people would expect is all. Sorry, that sounded terrible.
Yeah, I think at this point it'd be a bit of a surprise. I mean, EG have to make such a long lower bracket run, and then for Secret, I mean, they took out OG, but it's still a tough road for them through LGD as well. So
yeah, the word I was looking for was obvious. I'm so sorry, Gods.
Oh, you're good.
Lizard, while I try and gather myself and remember that I'm meant to be a professional, what about you?
No, I wasn't any different. I was just as bland as Parker when it comes to my predictions. Yeah, it was, what, PSG, LGD, and OG, something like that. So
yep.
Very similar, very similar. No T1s
I feel
in
like
the
mine's
finals.
a bit spicier than an LGD OG, you know?
Actually, it is. Actually, it is. I give you that.
That's true, but you don't want to upset the OG fan base.
For sure.
Hashtag DreamOG. I'm right there with you. I've been practicing my no-tail hair flips. I think they're going to be the first team in esports who are going to be sponsored by hair products soon.
Oh, those hair flicks are amazing. The moment they uploaded a picture of no-tail, I tweeted that this hair already won TI. I don't care whatever else happens. When it comes to pictures, when it comes to hairstyle, they have not only no-tail but Thompson as well, right? With long blonde hair.
Their coach?
Their coach, they've changed over this 2 years, and I would say for the better when it comes to when it comes to hairstyles.
Well, you know what I've been very, very impressed by is the suits that you guys have been rocking. I would like to wear a suit as well. It's just that they don't fit me. Right now, they really do not fit me for kind of obvious reasons you probably can't see because of this laptop. It's hiding something. I'm clearly not trying to because that would be impossible. But you know what? Over in the draft panel, we've got quite the spectacular look. And I would really like to show it off right now. Again, two of our panelists getting the wine memo. We've got basically Zim Fandel from Weatherspoons, and then we've got Pinot Grigio Blush in the middle, and then we have the sommelier, Fogged.
Sure.
How are you guys doing over on the draft panel?
Yeah, it's good. You know, I've never done a draft panel without a draft, so it's a very unique experience. Welcome to the draft panel.
Welcome. Who has the best suits, you or Iceman?
Iceman? Who's Iceman? Is that Tsunami?
Iceman.
Is that what we call Tsunami now?
You or Bruno? You or our friend Bruno?
No, I think it's Tsunami. I think that's the right answer. I'm sorry.
Tsunami.
I modeled.
Okay.
I went to my tailor and I showed him a bunch of pictures of Tsunami. I'm like, can you make me look like him? And he's like, well, I'll try.
He's like, the beard is on you. You've got
Yeah,
to
exactly.
do the beard yourself.
And the face as well, you know, and the voice. But besides that, I think I'm doing a pretty good job.
Yeah. And it's your first TI as well. Sorry, I didn't
No, he
mean to
definitely
interrupt,
has
Fox.
the color variety coming down, right? Like Tsunami tends to have, like, he's got these purples, these greens, everybody else sticks to the normal colors, and then we got the pink, so yeah, sticking to it.
Something incredible has been happening, which is we've been matching without even realizing.
Not me.
It's just Dota 2. It brings you together.
Yeah.
Team Merlot versus Team Pink, basically. It's like we've already set up our teams, and I'm so sorry to Team Merlot that I'm on your team by accident. Maybe I can be in the coaching role and just do the shoulder massages. I can do a march, coach march, and this is my technique. What do you think?
Oh, it's terrifying.
That's scary.
That's the only thing I'm. Well, I thought I was about to say that's the only thing I'm good at. It turns out I'm not good at that either. I'm going to ask about your brackets as well. I'm going to ask you to kind of predict the winner of TI right now, because why not? We've got time.
PSG, LGD.
I was going to say Vici originally, but I'm leaning towards LGD now. Yeah.
I had LGD IG finals.
Okay.
LGD
Ooh.
winning.
Yeah, me too, actually.
So definitely it's going to be China's year, you're thinking. Okay. Any particular reason why? This is a really stupid question. They're two of the best teams in the world right now. But you know what? Answer it anyway. Why?
Just dominance throughout group stage, dominance throughout the year, comfortable players, powerhouse players, and I think there's a lot of clutch factors that comes into once you get to the grand finals of these like powerhouse mid players in particular, and I think LGD and IG literally have like my two favorite mid players at the moment. So.
You don't think that Arme is going to be haunted by TI's past?
No.
I hope not.
I don't think so personally, because he's just been playing out of his mind. He's been grinding pubs every day. I initially had LGD IG finals as well, but I think we might see LGD VP in the grand finals.
Oh.
VP? Is that because of their performance yesterday?
Yeah, because typically they do choke on main stage, but they didn't this time around. And I think they've got a lot of potential that might actually just surprise everybody.
I was a fly on the wall in the interview between Slacks and DM. I thought I would shadow him and get some tips, and I have to say, he is so confident. One, incredible English, natural interviewee. I was quite jealous of Slacks, actually. But also, yeah, they're just taking it completely in their stride. And I suppose you've just had a win. Of course you're going to come into the interview room. Of course you're going to be feeling confident. But it does seem like there is something about these young players who've grown up watching TI where, of course, they care, but also they have this phenomenal self-belief, and I kind of want to read their self-help manuals. Listen.
Yeah, I think it's actually very specific to VP. They consider themselves like this new generation, and they approach TI like, step aside, boomers. We don't need any of your advices. We're going there with our own strategy, with our own belief in ourselves, and we will take it. There's quite a lot of optimism surrounding them at the moment.
You feel optimistic?
I feel optimistic.
What about you guys? Obviously, Effie, you do.
They went for the strat where they pretend to reveal other strats in an interview, and they're like, we got you. We were actually saving a bunch of them behind, because DM was very talkative in that interview. I was very surprised. Usually players don't say as much. So I'm hoping that's what they're going for. It's the mind games, right? Right, Lizard?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's it.
We got to cover them a lot in DPC, and sometimes, maybe a little bit of overconfidence was a bit of their downfall. So that's one thing where I always have to be like, VP, you can have that confidence, but rein it in a little bit. You have to give some respect to your opponents. They're here for a reason, too. So, I think they are super dominant team, but like in DPC, they had some games where they literally would give the opposing team their best heroes, and then we'd be like, why'd you do this? And it'd be like, because we wanted to challenge ourselves. So sometimes I think you got to be a little bit careful with that.
Some things linger on from the old VP. The old VP, historically did A to Z challenge, trying to pick every single hero in a turn. Yeah. They never picked the same hero twice in the same tournament. So some of that, bravado still remains.
And that same bravado and optimism can come to haunt you a little bit, because as Evo said, during that same interview, he was pretty much revealing what their most comfortable strategy is. He said, oh yeah, this is our most comfortable draft, and we were happy to play it, and we won with it. Well, guess what? Now everyone knows what's your most comfortable draft. It might be a little bit of a problem, but if you adapt to it, I think you can make it work.
Surely you can also see that, though, by watching the games.
It's hard to tell the mental state of the players during the game, so having that information it's like the confirmation, as Lizard says. So.
Yeah. Lizard. Lizard and Evo.
Evo.
I like that
Our
duo.
two favorites. No, I think with younger players and less experienced ones, anxiety does play a huge role in how they perform at TI, and we saw that with Beast Coast, who a lot of us had really high expectations for. And I remember an interview that we did with DM at ESL One Fall, and he said that they've been changing the way that they approach life recently. They brought someone new into their team, and he's just been adding routine and discipline and structure to their schedule and actually making them go outside and things like that, and it's been really good for them. But the thing about VP is when they start to lose, they kind of fall apart, and we really haven't seen them yet. Because I remember they were willing to do interviews at ESL One Fall up until they lost one game, and then they just didn't want to talk to us that day. So there really could just be some psychological block that they have going on.
They also represent the whole region, right? And when
welcome back
you're
to more
representing
rapid-fire question,
Eastern Europe, do you have a lot of pressure on you?
There's team spirit, though.
Yeah.
That is true.
No, for sure. Just the main organization from the region.
Another man who likes to pile on the pressure is Dakota. So let's find out how T1 fared under his rapid-fire questioning.
Hi, welcome back to more rapid-fire question action. I'm here with 23 Savage of T1. Welcome, Carl. How you doing?
I'm good.
You ready for some rapid-fire trivia?
I'm ready.
Who played in the grand final of the first TI?
Navi.
And?
I don't know.
Nobody knows the other team.
IG?
Close. Another Chinese team. Rhymes with Fleabone.
Navi and IG?
Oh, close.
Navi and Ihom?
You're right. Good job. You'd be surprised how many of your teammates said IG. Who is most likely to yell on your team in a match?
Yeah, I think it's me.
You get loud? You yell?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm always hype.
You're always hype?
Yeah.
You seem pretty hyped for this interview. Can you tell me the worst roommate on your team?
Can I say coach?
Of course.
I think coach.
Who's the best player on your team?
Me.
Nice. Who's the most improved over the last year?
Carl.
Can you tell me the last movie you watched?
Squid Game.
Squid Game.
Yeah. Squid Game.
You watched Squid Game?
I watch Squid Game.
Squid Game.
Yeah.
Of course. How do you think you would do on Squid Game?
Maybe gonna die. Like.
I think I died. Was that right at the end of the interview? I can't do much. I could barely do it in the first place, and now that's absolutely killed me. I like that that's also a movie, and I know that obviously it's a TV series, and obviously English isn't the first language. But now I'm thinking about a 9-hour Squid Game movie, and I could only watch one episode of that thing at a time, so I cannot imagine the tenacity and also the trauma of watching 9 hours of Squid Game.
That would be a little bit too much, even for a Dota player. We go through it one game at a time, but even for us, it would be too much.
Yeah, we're used to the suffering, but yeah, there's still a limit before you gotta kind of take a step back.
Do Victor, would you commentate a Squid Game?
Oh, if the Dota players were playing it, absolutely. You know, let's get all the Dota players in. It'd be much. But we're playing for so much money. You know, we could put a bit more on the line than just a bit of video games. Come on, let's make it interesting. Let's make it exciting. Next year, we'll be there.
We wouldn't have a scene anymore.
Wow, there's so many players. We've got
Just
a few
use
we
the
can get
retired players, you know, the All-Star game or something.
There we go. Not doing anything else. Go and play a bit of Squid Game. It's nice.
Which Dota professional would win Squid Game?
Oh, I'd have to go with Fly.
Fly.
Yeah, Fly.
Fly would win.
Probably.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to be an awkward dinner? Again, I don't want to do spoilers. I want to be careful, but like Fly, No Tail, Puppy.
That would be a very interesting trio to watch out for. Probably the one that Owen would be most typecasting.
Yeah, that'd be a hype one. That would be hype. Yeah.
It's fine, right? I'm going to order myself a gold animal mask. Again, trying to avoid spoilers here. So moving swiftly on to some interesting stats from TI. I think these are overall TI stats as opposed to TI 10 statistics. We're going to bring them up in our impressively massive monitor. Unfortunately, you cannot buy these in the secret shop. Over 10 years of TI, 1,598 matches played, and I think Owen has cast approximately 600 of those. Any highlights?
See, that's a lot, but maybe. Any hype from all TIs? Or from these stats specifically. I mean, there's a lot of creeps. You know, I feel bad for the creeps here. 2.8 million creep deaths. You know, it's not talked about enough. If we get enough in the chat, please, for every single creep that was killed over the 10 years of TI.
It's not their fault they became creeps.
Exactly.
I thought more would be killed. I'm a bit underwhelmed.
You want to see more
Yeah.
Are you
suffering?
really underwhelmed?
I'm a carry player, yeah. I want death to all the creeps. That's what they're there for.
I kind of want to see what the last hit statistics are. Just because that's when we can get properly judgy and pretend that we would be able to do so much better. I think we might even have some more stats.
Oh.
Team total wins. There we go. Interesting that OG have the least amount of wins, but you have to remember that when they won TI 8 and TI 9, it was through the upper bracket, and obviously they formed, I think their first TI was TI 6?
I think so as
Because
well.
Monkey Business formed 2015, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they went through a couple of majors and then straight into the TI. That's probably why they have the least amount. Keep in mind that PSG LGD, have they been at every single TI since TI 1?
Yeah, they're just this historic TI organization. EG has, and I'd say, look to the other team next to them. EG has had so much TI success. It's a team that just has been like a top, 4 to 6 team in almost like every TI, it feels like, other than 1 or 2 years.
And when you look at IG, it's pretty much the same situation because T1, most of their players in that interview thought that IG was the team that won TI1, but it was actually the TI2 that they managed to win, if I'm correct, right?
Yep, they won that one over Navi, and yeah, all those orgs up there, fantastic historic orgs. LG, the only one that hasn't won a TI, actually, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe this is the year.
Well, unfortunately, we've still got some technical difficulties in the pods going on, but it's fine. Stay with us. Stay with us. We could do a little fashion show. We're not going to do a fashion show. We're still going to talk about Dota. Don't worry. I'm not going to start talking about Counter-Strike. Don't switch off. Stick with us. In terms of I mean, I did mention it briefly earlier when we were looking at how many matches are played, but Aaron, is there a particular match that you've casted at International that has really stood out and stayed with you? I know there have been quite a few.
Well, I mean, it's probably obviously the Seb game, isn't it, right? TI Grand Finals, when OG do it. That's probably one that stands out the most that I casted. I think outside of that, of course, there's a lot of fantastic games. I mean, was it what it was Ice. What was he playing on? Was it back on where the one that Cap casted that was one of the considered one?
Oh,
of
the EG Ehome, yeah.
EG yeah. That
he was playing carry.
Yeah, in terms of just all games, that was quite a spectacle.
Do you get royalties from the Seb scarves?
No, I should, shouldn't I? I should. I'm very bad at business and stuff. I like to do things. People can make money out of me. I don't mind. I'm just here for the good times.
OG, you've won
if you want to
TI
send me a
twice.
check in the post, though, OG, I'll take it.
You've won TI twice. You don't need the money. This man, however, look, he's not even wearing a proper shirt today.
I've
he can only
got a
afford
scarf.
T-shirts.
It's cold
Absolutely shocking. And you know what? We are going to have to take a short break while we get this technical stitch sorted out. I'm going to grab my little screwdriver. Yes, it is maroon. And we will be back with you as soon as we can.
What can we expect here from Alliance?
Well, step one, I was hoping that T1 would take out that Tidehunter. I think that's also a really good option if Alliance was able to get it. I think other hero that me and Effie were looking at is probably the Lina is the other, of course, one the panel was talking about, at least for Alliance. Heavy contested hero between the two of them. And then we'll trickle down to our, our Snapfires, our Disruptors, big team fight heroes, depending on what they're playing against. And of course, Alliance might have to be thinking right now is, do we want to ban the Doom? Do we move it up in priority? Do we look for IO? Because they had a couple struggle games on it too, so let's see what it's going to be.
I think we should expect a Magnus pick too, just because of his performance yesterday was absurdly good. He did well in groups, but after what we saw yesterday, I think this should be a hero to look for, and there it is.
There we go.
Priority shifted for sure after the yesterday series.
And for T1, whenever we watch them play, they just seem like you give them a comfort pick and they will outplay you. That's the name of the game most of the time. Jenkins always says that this team will pick the greediest draft and still fight you. And they would go 3 Midas and still fight you because they just know that they can perform the team fights better. So, Effie, could we expect more of these team fighting heroes to go with the Magnus, or we maybe see the Doom that Carl's been running around a lot?
I think it just really depends on what Alliance are looking to play here, but the reason why we expected Magnus to come out is because number one, he does enable his greedy cores, but two, in the past, Magnus used to just be played around RP, right? And that's what people saw him as. But this new style of just horn toss skewer back as a form of initiation is absurdly good. You can play without the cooldown of RP. And in the right hands, Magnus can just check a lot of bases. And those are just ensuring that your net worth is always up and just always having the ability to initiate or counter-initiate, right? So it's incredibly valuable, especially in the hands of T1 or Alliance, by the way. S4 plays a great Magnus, so I'm a bit surprised that they didn't actually consider it here at Fogged.
Yeah, I'm surprised with their opener, actually. The 2 supports just like this. Maybe they're really expecting one of those like spirits that are really pesky and they don't want Lion to be banned out. They want to have that hard disable for it, but I know Snapfire's been super contested, but really interesting to see them just open up with that. Because now it's your supports are not going to be frontliners. Initiation will be a little bit harder, and T1's going to be like just snaps picks Lina. So that feels like, I mean, I look at T1s and it just feels much more comfortable, and it feels like it just ticks more boxes in the draft overall.
100%, and I think of all of the mid heroes that you want to first phase, you should be looking at the Lina because she doesn't have any bad lane matchups. She scales into the late game, she shoves waves, and can play with only 2 items, which are BOTs and BKB, and obviously built into Silver Edge, which is the DPS item of the patch. Perhaps the reasoning behind Lion is that they know that T1 do like to play heroes like Puck that are slippery and just securing it early in the draft makes sure it doesn't get banned out later. Another idea behind it could be that if they are taking a fight on Vision and they have Vision of this Magnus, Lion can pre-cast the Hex, and when he links in, he'll be instantly hexed, right? So that could have been what they were looking at here.
I also saw, Lion yesterday. 2 times we saw teams pick like illusion heroes into the Lion or pick like these elusive heroes into the Lion, and we're like, wow, Lion looks really good now. And we saw the mana drain like own throughout the game. He's just getting super farmed and taking out either the TB illusions or it was, I can't remember what the other one was, but either our Spectre was the other one, so.
Yeah, that's typically how it works. And Lion was forgotten for a really long time up until Puck was the mid hero of the patch 8 months ago. And it made Lion rise to popularity, right? Storm as well. And Storm has been an incredible hero throughout this tournament, I would say. I doubt we'll be seeing it come out of Alliance. It's not a limp hero, but it is pretty nice here. Like, I look at these 2 heroes and I would like to see a Storm.
Yeah, I want something that Alliance can start the fight with that starts the fight with the Lion, that you can jump in and follow up, and something else that Lion's going to take some time, right, to get that Blink Dagger. So I want something that's just going to naturally be able to go in and start the fight, which could be that mid hero. But it's going to be limited because I did get to see I got to actually cast the T1 versus Alliance in the group stages too, and they put Limp in a bad matchup because he needed to be that kind of catch and jump in, and he never got to play the game. It was a 20-minute stomp. They got Necrophos mid. He was Ember. He was trying to be the one that like lead in pre-blink daggers on his other cores, and the game never even got off the bat for them. So
I expect S4 to fill that role we were talking about of jumping in with the Lion, but I can't really think of any high damage offlaners at the moment. But that's the nice synergy of having a Snapfire as well. You can go into the Lion and you can just throw the Mortimers from a distance. Something that I get reminded of when I look at things like this is they actually Oh, they do ban out the Void. That's unfortunate because they did try this style of having Nico Baby just play Void, be the initiator, and putting Limp on something long range like a sniper. And Sniper can be very good here actually because he outranges Lina and it forces her to buy a Blink Dagger.
They also did lose with the sniper versus T1 in the group stage too, right? They like picked it versus the Razor to try to counteract it, and Limp got ran down by an ET the entire game with Zephyr chasing him. So I mean, it's definitely a good pick here. Just like that might be like this bad memory inside of Limp's mind where he's like, maybe give me something else there. So we're seeing very team-specific bans coming out, and it is going to be the Ember. So I felt like this was going to be forced, but now it's like into this matchup versus the Lina. I'm a little worried already off the bat from Limp. Because I saw this the other day. I saw this in the group stages. It was a worse matchup versus Necrophos, but is it maybe? Maybe Lina's even worse. Sure, in the mid game you can do something about it because Lina's squishy, but...
And depending on how you choose to scale your abilities, you can always just go for Flame Guard and just farm camps in between, but Ember does get severely bullied by Lina in lane. But he is going to be good at dodging her abilities, and of course, dodging Magnus's abilities, if you have a Remnant out, you can just react faster than he casts his spells.
What can we be seeing in the 3 position? Because they also talk about the DK for S4. Very successful hero against Beast Ghost. You were talking about needing someone that can be that frontliner. What are options left in the offlane?
They've traditionally liked something like a Beastmaster, something that can actually give them some natural push in the lineup, because when you already have a mid-Ember, sure, you're going to be able to fight in battle, but now your lineup is already really crippled on pushing. So that's something they really do like, something with some reach. But into Bane, that can be a little bit more complicated.
I like the idea of Mars with the Snapfire. It seems like a very strong lane, obviously with the minus armor and the physical damage from Rebuke. Also can give them the Mars Arena plus Mortimer's combo, which is has been quite successful historically.
It's also a good Hunter combo with the Lion. You're asking for a high damage offlaner. Mars does bring it to the table, so yeah. It is a high execution hero, however, which might be difficult when you're in the lower brackets. Perhaps the first game is the game where you try that out.
And out comes Dawnbreaker, so I'm really glad that this hero has had her main stage moments, right? Because when we were watching groups, there was maybe 2 or 3 Dawnbreaker games played by exclusively VP, and everyone was just like, oh, she got nerfed, she's not a great support. She doesn't have to be.
The two big ones actually are the last two picks from T1. The 2 heroes I thought were going to be amazing in the group stages, and people were like, yeah, let's not pick Bane too much. And then we come to main event and it's like, boom, Bane every game or Bane every other game. Same thing for Dawn. I like that pick. I think also that might dissuade them from going for something like Mars too.
Exactly.
Because then like the Mars ult comes down, Dawnbreaker is going to be able to set up and counter initiate heavily. So maybe that might put a little bit more fear into Alliance to just look for head-on team fights, because right now it's looking a little hard for them too.
For sure, and to add on to that, this concept that they have going with this Lion and Ember is basically get in, kill a target quickly, and get out. And by having the Dawnbreaker, you can negate that. Also, Bane is quite good at killing the Ember Spirit, so they do help that a little bit. They do have the catch for him.
The fun T1 poke is, I know what, it was Curtis who likes to always say it. Now they have like a sleep into a skewer. They have like this really fun little combo. Lots of poke as well coming out from Dragon Slave. They have Shockwave, so they're always going to have good ways to just spam, take fights.
What's the logic behind the Morphling here?
It's a pretty good Morphling game.
Okay.
There is the Bane who could catch him out and kill him. That is a threat there, but in the Dawnbreaker, Lina, and Magnus, you can preemptively cast your Strength More fight, and scales better than these heroes, including the Lina. It's just that I don't feel like he's going to have the space, honestly.
It feels greedy.
Yeah.
With the 2 supports as well, like they're kind of weaker supports. I feel like his lane could be a bit hard, and in the past also people used to really like Lina versus Morphle also. Like sure, it's a little bit different, times have changed where it's just right-clicking Lina, but it's still kind of same concept. Like if you catch Morph in a bad situation, boom, Laguna Blade plus a double nuke, he's probably just going to die if he's out of position.
And the thing about that is you don't want to go in first with your Morphling because you could get gripped or LSA'd from Fog, right? But your Ember doesn't want to go first either because the same thing could happen to him. So they actually do have a lack of a strong, durable frontliner because neither Ember nor Morphling can fill that role for each other unless there's some kind of snowball start on the Ember.
What's the S4 hero even left, right? Shaker's gone, DK's gone, Tide's gone. It's like Beastmaster's one of the few left, but...
They've done Legion before against the Bane. We've seen how that's worked out.
Yeah.
It's a really tough matchup, especially if you have to be the one initiating, because you just get Nightmare, and that's over.
It could just be the Mars here. It doesn't
Oh,
really
well, there's no
banned as
Mars
well.
anymore.
Yeah.
So
They're,
we're out of heroes.
limited.
Is Centaur a possibility here? Can we run that as the tanky initiator, even if he's not the most consistent stun?
I just haven't seen Centaur at all. I
Yeah,
don't
me
know if
neither.
I don't know if the hero's very good anymore.
I don't think he's good enough here, especially with the way people have been playing Lena, just building a Satanic. She absolutely shreds them and has no concern of dying, right? It's just weird to me that they picked this Morphling over the S4 hero in their last phase up, because I don't think it would have been banned out here because it doesn't look like the greatest of Morphling games. Like, he does fine versus all of these heroes individually, right? He can scale. There's no kind of instant stun, but like you said, he can die from fog. He can just get burst down if he makes one mistake.
And now they had a bunch of time to really think about what that last pick is for Savage. Just like, okay, do you want to play like a PL or something? I mean, there's an Ember, so maybe not the PL, but he can just think about his specific matchup, what he wants to play versus that Morphling. And he has a Bane, so super strong lane that he's going to have. He's going to be able to farm really well. He's not going to be pressured too much.
It's also a Savage emblematic hero, the Morphling, so he knows exactly what he hates playing against.
Exactly.
So it's a tough thing to give him time on. And Mira's completely right. If you're picking, when you have the last two picks, you have to consider what can your enemy ban in these last two bans, which is why many times you just pick the hero that you think might get banned or the position you think might get banned. And now S4 without options. I mean, I guess, oh, the Wraith King is going to be the option. Okay.
Ooh.
What do you think of that matchup against Morphling?
So they do want to play a higher tempo game, and Wraith King does hit his timings quite early, especially if he chooses to go for some kind of armlet build, right?
Yep.
They don't want to give Morphling space to farm, but the carry matchup of Morphling to Wraith King, like, Morphling destroys Wraith King, I would say. And
Especially with stats build.
it has to just be high tempo, run them over, because you look at Alliance's draft, there's not really any high cooldowns that you're afraid of. There's a mana burn from Lion, there's Chains, Ember can just keep you there. So I'm guessing they just want to steamroll them after hitting a timing.
So I need something fast. I mean, Timber is a good option. I know Brian was like screaming it over there on the left versus like the Wraith King and all that. It's not bad. It is an S4 hero, and there's just not really much left. He's gonna go for his Sanking. I feel like these lanes look super weak from Alliance. I'm worried. I've seen the Sanking struggle almost every game I've seen it played lately.
So the strength of the Sanking here is the defensive ability, right?
Yes.
He's really good at defending towers, really good just setting up Sandstorm. Hard to push the safe lane tier 1 with that, theoretically.
I would agree, and if we're gonna go on this 20-minute timing that T1 want to play for, then Sand King is one of the better heroes you can pick here, but it's pretty much because there is nothing left. However, there is the ability to stun or counter initiate, which is always going to be nice. It's just that I don't think this Sand King is going to be the one to go in first. Something Alliance do have going for their Morphling, though, is there's a lack of a natural vessel buyer on T1.
Yeah, definitely. Did we? I don't
Simplifies
think we
the
saw
gameplay.
I don't think we saw the Dawnbreaker go for it. There is Enfeeble, which can be frustrating in later stages, but early on we've seen, most people aren't really skilling it. So I think if Alliance, if they can play fast-paced, if they don't get smashed in their lanes, they do have a good way to fight back. Because I do think T1s is a bit greedy for them to actually just it's going to take some time for them to build up this Wraith King, as we've seen that hero's gotten nerfed several times. So Alliance, I mean, I have to just stare at lanes. Like first 10 minutes, I have to see if S4 has a decent time on the Sand King, because I've seen so many games lately as Sand King where this hero just doesn't get to play. Like it dies like 4 or 5 times in laning phase, and then you're just a single blink stun.
But there's also this potential of Alliance playing the tempo game too, depending on how lanes go, right? Because if Sand King does get the early blink and Morphling doesn't get severely pressured, he does do well individually versus these heroes, right?
Right.
And we've seen Nico Baby group up with his team early and pressure towers and not just sit back and farm triangles. That's not really his style of carry.
And you were asking earlier for a high damage offlaner. Sand King does bring that to the table. You have a decent hunting squad with the Lion and the Snapfire as well. It's really just the lanes, it seems like to me, for Alliance. That's the biggest worry.
That's really my biggest concern. If they can make it out of the lanes and if they're even, I think they can actually do a pretty good job of fighting back. As long as they just avoid team fights, be very aware of Dawnbreaker. There's a hero that not everybody's really playing so much, so just be really aware of that global potential.
Well, let's see if T1's coach March agrees with this analysis, and he also thinks that they can take them over. As we go down to Sir Action Selects, who's going to ask him some questions.
Hello, March. Thank you so much for taking time with us. Game's about to begin. Strong opener with Lena Magnus. Saw you took a little bit of
Wanna play with fire?
Seconds to battle.
But we've seen many times at TI teams looking hot going into the upper bracket. They lose their first set, they drop down, lose again, and that is a fate you really don't want to face. When you feel like you came in a good position, you can get knocked out almost just as quickly if things go awry. So looking to take this series against Alliance, of course. I think fair to say, based on how groups went and how the upper bracket went for T1 against LGD, taking at least a game against the Juggernauts. T1 probably fair to assess them as the overall favorites in this matchup. But Alliance have been picking up a little bit of momentum, obviously going off that win yesterday, and you heard in the pregame the discussion about how, as far as said, they've learned a lot from the group stage, and Alliance is one of those teams that can, how to say, they can pick up some momentum, they can learn from their mistakes, and obviously it is a tough matchup today, but
Do you think, I mean, when you're playing group stage, not everybody's really scouting each other as closely because you're playing a ton of games and a ton of teams at the same time. But when it gets to this stage, there's a lot of prep that goes in for the specific team. Alliance has a little bit more time to work with, I would say. But T1 obviously coming from upper bracket, they're obviously disappointed that they lost that best of 3, but should be an exciting matchup nonetheless. And of course, Alliance is, I mean, they were the top EU team overall because of, what was it, #1 in each DPC season, like going into the major.
Yeah, unfortunately for Alliance, their showings at the actual majors weren't what they had hoped. Basically just bombed out both times. So obviously for them, they have a lot to prove here. And yeah, the whole thing about prep, I think, is pretty important. If you do talk about Dota with S4, he's a very intelligent player, the way he thinks about the game. I think he's a huge part of why Alliance won back at TI3, just this overall understanding of macro movements in the game. Yeah. Alliance were outstanding in the tournament. It's obviously many years ago, but they kind of, I wouldn't say they pioneered split pushing, because that was a concept that was known from back in Dota 1. They perfected it. But they mastered it at that event, and they did such a great job just playing the map at a different level from other teams that eventually they got caught up to, and then they started losing in subsequent tournaments after TI. But I think S4 really a clever player. So hopefully the prep that he has done going into this will show. But so far so good for T1 in the lanes, I would say. Carl in the mid lane, Lina against Ember. You know, this reminds me of a game we had yesterday. Was it Emo who played Ember against Shadow Fiend from Team Spirit? That was 2 days ago by now. Time flies when you're having fun. But it was the IG versus Team Spirit series in the upper bracket, where Emo got a last pick Ember into a known Shadow Fiend. Yeah. So picked it into a losing lane, but they assessed that it was still worth it for its overall potential impact on the game, and they did end up winning that game, obviously. Limp in a similar situation here. Lina's a tough matchup. You're not going to win this lane ever if the players are equally matched. And I think Carl against Limp is a pretty fair lane matchup overall in terms of just raw lane mechanical skill. So I would imagine Carl will be pulling ahead here.
Yep, I mean, relatively even to start things out, but of course it is early, like you said. They're going to get each respective water rune. Nico Baby this time around will be playing the Morphling in this bot lane, and we can talk a bit about Dawnbreaker, who gets canceled there. FNG, Shockwave brings him back in, and Zephyr secures the first blood with that last right click.
When you're playing these squishy 5s against Dawnbreaker, you need to be quick on your fingers. You need to be ready for that play to come. As soon as the Celestial Hammer goes out, you have to stun her. Hansken hesitated for too long there, or sorry, FNG, not Hansken. Let's focus on the right player here. Hesitated for too long with that Earth Spike and ended up taking 2 attacks from the Starbreaker. Yeah. That needs to get stopped instantly. As soon as the hammer gets thrown, you have to stun, and gets punished there, and Zephyr manages to get first blood. Very good for the Dawnbreaker. We'll be getting boots as a reward. This hero is exceptionally good at chasing down heroes because it's just so strong in lane. So with these freshly picked up boots, look for Zephyr to just go aggressive.
He's going to take some damage here. We've talked about the Dawnbreaker support in the past, and some lineups feel a little iffy as it were, especially as a support. Obviously, she's going to be very good in the laning stage, as we're seeing right now. But this game in particular, there are a lot of stuns that set up her ultimate for the later stage of the game. You have the Nightmare, you have the Fiend's Grip, obviously. LSA is pretty low cooldown, Wraith, Fire Blast as well, and then the huge RP. So literally every hero can theoretically set up the Solar Guardian, which, I mean, I think you and I agree is probably the most important aspect of that hero going mid-game and beyond.
Absolutely. Oh,
top lane, Whitemon going to get caught out, takes considerable amount of damage, but will live through it. Nightmare into the Wraith Fire Blast now is 23 Savage, blocking S4. He will be able to walk away as those little skelly buddies are chasing him.
The boys, as we call them.
The boys. I think that's copyrighted by a TV show, Sindrin.
Oh.
Can't say that.
Okay. Well, hopefully they're not watching then. There's probably not that much overlap between the writers of that TV show and TI, but you never know.
You never know.
You get surprised sometimes with where people's interests lie. So,
especially you.
Yeah. I guess. I don't know what that was supposed to mean.
Because you have no interest. That was the joke. Zephyr makes his way to the top lane. Wraith Fire Blast into the Starbreaker. But Burrow Strike is there in time for S4. But he's going to take so much damage from that hammer.
I think one saving grace for Alliance here against the Dawnbreaker ult, like we talked about. Yes, you have a lot of good combos with it, but it's not a good Ags game at the very least. There's no hero on Alliance that really suffers against that 60% evasion. Morphling a lot of the time can, you know, go for more of a magic-based build with the E-Blade. And I think waveform, attack talent, and all this stuff that comes way later in the game, I think can't miss, if I'm not mistaken. I'm actually not 100% on that. Good waveform bomb. Tries to play onto
Looks
Cuckoo.
like Cuckoo might take a tumble here. Has his skewer available, but is just completely stun locked by Alliance, who get their first kill of the game and this series.
Yeah, they can easily take advantage of that. With the Dawnbreaker rotation top, they know they're 2v1. Lion, one of the best supports in the game, 2v1. Not that good 2v2, especially as a 5, but whenever you outnumber, you just have so much lockdown for your carry to just go to town. And they do kill Cuckoo's mag, so he has still managed to almost find level 5 down here, so I don't think Cuckoo is too concerned. The game plan is coming along nicely. Lina and Wraith King are having total free games, basically. So, not the biggest of deals, but obviously Alliance will take what they can get in these lanes.
Now Whitemon not able to secure the rune. Limp will still get that invisibility. As looking at the overall CS here, let me bring it up real quick. Wraith King sitting at 38 and 10 versus a 33 and 8 of the Morphling, so relatively even. Of course, 23 Savage will eventually go into the jungle. This is the thing I like about Wraith King as a position 1. It kind of creates space for some, like a position for like Dawnbreaker theoretically to get some farm once he enters that jungle.
Yeah.
Semi full time, if that's even a word. We'll just go it.
Full time. That's called part time.
Part time job as S4 gets the Burrow Strike off. Whitemon taking some damage, but the cookie ends up saving S4 for about 2 seconds. But Zephyr is there to clean up yet again. Seems to be everywhere, and he doesn't even have his ult yet.
He has a lot of freedom to move. Cuckoo's doing such a good job playing alone down here. He's almost level 6, so you don't even feel bad about this if you're Zephyr. Might even end up killing Hanskin here if Limp doesn't come over to help.
He's going for it. Limp in the area.
Hammer.
And not going to pursue any further. Cuckoo getting some mana drained here. Has to skewer out to safety. That means he's completely depleted.
Surely Zephyr doesn't do this, right? Okay. It almost looked like he was going to try to dive him in the face.
At 7 minutes. Yeah.
Learned from Cuckoo from yesterday. Just go for it, and then if you fail, you just write, we need wards. So
that's true.
He didn't have a ward.
That is the play. Earth Spike into the waveform. Cuckoo looks to be done again. So 2 kills in this lane for Alliance. Yeah. Nico Baby and company starting to get back into this game, which, I mean, it's not like it's out of reach by any means, but T1 definitely off to a slightly better start right now.
And Nico claiming that is very, very good for his economy. 250 extra gold here, getting the treads flown out now. Very curious to see what build he goes for, right? Because as the draft panel pointed out, there are some aspects of this game that can be dangerous to Morphling. So you could maybe see him go for something like a Lincoln Sphere against Bane, which isn't necessarily ideal. Okay, FNG in trouble.
Starbreaker not going to fully connect on FNG. Limp gets the nice cookie, stun, and the regen rune, and Carl just getting kited around. Another kill goes the way of Alliance, as FNG taking some harassment, but looks like he will live through the day thanks to the support of the rest of his team.
Yeah, great rotation there. Bringing Hanskin was crucial to killing off the Lina. They're going to smoke here in full vision, though. So T1 definitely know that this is happening. Let's see if they guess the right move, though. FNG mana burning here. Zephyr's going to walk right into him.
Yeah, the fact that Zephyr is level 4 despite being involved in so many kills is kind of weird, actually. Feels like he should be a higher level right now, but
he hasn't taken much lane. That's what you trade off when you leave the off lane, right? So that you give the Magnus the solo experience, and while kills are nice, if you don't soak up any lane space, you don't progress, right? So I think now that Zephyr is showing mid, he might even sit here all the way until level 6, because Bane will need the tome in this game. So might just park him here. As you pointed out, top lane is also an option. You could just put the Dawnbreaker in the safe lane, put Wraith King into the jungle. But this way you might get... You're definitely going to get more gold on Wraith King if you let him take the lane and the big camp. But S4 making sure that is not the case here. Digging that up with a bounty, getting a bounty rune out of his good old shot.
Oh, the dust from Whitemon, but a quick burrow strike. There's the stun from Zephyr. And S4 looks to be mega dead here. Actually does a nice job of sidestepping the Starbreaker, but it just delays the inevitable here.
And keep in mind, this is a Sand King with Vanguard against the Wraith King Skeletons, and he still dies. So you can't really be tankier than this at this point as Sand King with Soul Ring Vanguard, but it's just not enough against these 3 heroes. Alliance looking a little bit lost over here in the triangle, I gotta say. They've been standing here for quite a long time, and they're just on top of a ward, so essentially kind of wasting their time. They obviously don't know this, but T1 are just not gonna go there. And you understand what Alliance are thinking. You're playing against a lineup that has Magnus Wraith King. You're assuming there's gonna be big Ancient stacks, but T1 honestly haven't really paid much attention to that area just yet, so... I don't know if this is going to be something we see developing as like a new meta almost, where teams, because of the anticipation that the opposite team are going to invade your triangle, you just don't focus on it that much early unless you feel like you can clearly defend it.
Right,
and you just
like
don't
the next
stand.
level thinking, essentially.
Right,
Nightmare, LSA, here comes the Solar guarding it as well, but S4 able to get the burrow strike off in time to at least create a little bit of distance, but again, completely outnumbered with 4 members of T1 in the vicinity.
He is now 0-4. It was what Fogged was talking about. This happens in a lot of games for offlane Sand King, especially if he's left alone. And now, finally, all right, FNG, I think, took the Tome of Knowledge, so he's going to make a move with Limp. They have Finger of Death. Could very easily burst anyone they find, except Wraith King, who can, of course, put a point in the ultimate. They will find Carl. That would be a very big pick.
Yeah, this would be a huge one. It looks like it's going to be an easy one on top of that. FNG gets his first Finger stack of the game. And now some pressure being applied to this tier 1 mid in favor of Alliance.
Great move here. They do that in connection with the Siege Creep being alive mid, and FNG is going to tank this at least for a bit. Okay, Mortimer
Kisses. Searing Chains with the Mortimer's Kisses. Look, oh, it's from super long range. Great anticipation as well. Alliance.
Very,
tier
very
1
nice
as
here
well.
From Alliance, yeah, getting the mid tower out of that original smoke move onto the Lina. That's a very high value play. More or less equalizing the game with that, actually. They were starting to fall 2k gold behind, but they found a lot out of that. And of course, let's keep in mind, Nico Baby is getting a lot of space as well. Opting to go for first item Skadi here. Interesting choice, obviously.
First item. Well, after Morph Mask, but that...
Yeah.
That's... I don't know if I've ever seen that, actually.
It's not the most common build. A lot of the times you see Morph getting some sort of a build-up item, like sometimes you get Yasha, sometimes you get a full Manta, sometimes you see the Diffusal if it's a good game for that.
Super good Scotty game against Wraith King, Dawnbreaker, and the likes as Bane's going to be taken out. FNG though, Savage. Yep. 3 shots from him.
I love Armlet on Wraith King. It is such a good item. Whether, like, whatever you go after, if it's the Silver Edge build or the Deso, or I guess in some edge cases Radiance, I really like the Armlet first. You just hit such a strong peak already 10 minutes in with these 2 items. You saw him basically 2-shotting Lion there with that massive crit. 270% critical strike damage on a 4-second cooldown is no joke.
That's the old CK skill too. They kind of swapped.
Yeah.
Poor CK. I guess people are more have an affinity towards Wraith King more than CK these days anyway.
Yeah. Well, what they did do for CK though, they increased the chance, right? I think at some point the critical strike was 11% chance. Now it's 33, and the numbers were obviously tweaked.
11? Are you sure about
I'm pretty sure it used to be that. It's a long time ago.
11?
We're both old.
I'm gonna say 18 just
because
so
here's one of the perks of being old. Okay, you have a lot of things you can remember. You also have a lot of things you can't remember, and a lot of things you might misremember, which makes for great conversation. Because sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong, but at the very least, people are talking.
Sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong, and you're always an idiot as well.
Yeah,
so.
That is true. That comes with getting older.
Indeed. All right, bottom lane, tier 1 tower getting harassed a bit here. As Limp and company.
This could be a strong flank.
Area. Yeah, we're seeing the flank now from T1. 23 Savage.
Someone's in trouble.
Handskin in the trees. If they can get Limp, that'll be the high priority target. Looks like it'll be Handskin instead. The rest of his team abandoned him, but with good reason.
Alliance dipping there with 1 death is very good. Considering what angle T1 got there and how Alliance's heroes were positioned, that could have gone way worse if 23 Savage could have found a higher priority target.
The question is, does T1 actually want to push this? Because S4 looks to be mounting some sort of a defense. S4 not too far away from a Blink Dagger himself. This wave will almost ensure that he picks that up, in fact. And with that, likely to try to get something started. And of course, this is the beauty of Zephyr, like you talked about so many times. Or I should say, Dawnbreaker.
1 time.
Well, we know we've talked about this.
Actually, twice. I did talk about it twice.
We've had a couple games here.
See, that's one of the perks of being old. You can just make, you know, was it once or twice? I don't know. You talked about it a lot, you know.
Anyway, to finish the thought that you rudely interrupted, Solar Guardian just allows you to be everywhere. It's like a mini haunt.
Oh, not this
It's like a haunt on a support hero. You can push the lanes really easily and then join the fight whenever.
Yep.
And if you die, it's really not that big of a deal.
All right, so if you're confused about what he just said, the point he's making is it's a global ability, okay? That was the point of the haunt. It has nothing else in common with that ability.
I really appreciate that.
It is global.
Kuko, he's going to skewer as a fish, and will be out as a result. S4 has the Burrow Strike to cancel the TP, and Handskin and company should be able to clean up Bane pretty easily.
Yeah.
It actually reminds me,
mid-tower, though.
The extension was updated today with a bunch of new features, one of which was the most, community out, well, what am I trying to say? The one that people wanted the most, which is the top bar has the skills videos as well.
Very nice.
If you don't understand a word that we're trying to actually explain in terms of the abilities, you can look for yourself. Makes our job a lot easier. Also takes over
eventually
our
in the
job
future we won't need to say anything. It will just be, all of it will be in the tool.
That's right.
The tool will just start communicating as well. It will cast for us.
Yeah, AI will take over one day. I think we agree on this. You could be the leader of that. S4 pushing out that bot lane. As you can see the Searing Chains here. I don't think that Alliance wants to push. 2K net worth lead for T1 though. As looks like BKB just about to be finished on Carl.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the go time for each respective team? Because we have the Blink Dagger on S4. We don't have the Blink quite yet on Kuku. He went for the Helm, which we've been seeing a lot in this tournament.
Like you said, the dagger is coming out to Magnus.
Okay, it's on its way. Great.
He does have the dagger.
But what's the go time?
T1's timing is really, really strong right now, actually. They got dagger, BKB, as well as the Deso on Wraith King, so there are a lot of potential plays opening up for them right now. I think looking for the bottom tier 1 tower and maybe even finding a fight would be great, and then you can think about Roshan, perhaps. Wraith King, pretty good hero at killing Rosh.
Yeah.
So, especially with this item build. Alliance, what do they have coming up? So Morph is going to get the Scotty.
Yep, skewer back from Kuku.
Oh, he's dead.
Continue your thought, please.
Yep, so Scotty coming up on Morph. Ember is going Kaya Sanj with brown boots. Not sure how good that's going to be in this game for Limp, but obviously he is very far behind the Lina, so perhaps you just need to get a little bit creative with which direction you go in. And those are pretty much the big items. F&G only 300 away from a Blink, as a matter of fact, so maybe he can get that too. As 5 Lion, that's not a bad timing.
No.
Around 18 minutes, pretty good.
Now it looks like T1 will finally get this tier 1 bot. And
Nico,
Alliance,
baby.
the LSA is going to connect. There's the Fiend's Grip from afar as well. Laguna Blade finishes off Nico, baby. Handskin trying to take out the tower, but it's very healthy.
For lack of a better word, that seemed a bit naive, almost. It's obvious from our perspective with the vision that we have, but you're pushing the top tier 1 tower with only Snapfire protecting you, not something like a Blink Sand King that can instantly interrupt spells like Grip there or counter the Lina. But also T1 weren't really showing that many heroes to inspire you with the confidence to go for that play. So I think Alliance bit over a little bit more than they could chew there. And yeah, what did T1 effectively use? Only really Fiend's Grip. Laguna Blade is a low cooldown. That's going to be ready again. They still have RP. I think if you're T1 and you find this double damage rune here, you're like, all right, let's just go Rosh.
Yep.
Your team fight is available. So
And we're going to have a smoke from Alliance. We'll see if they find a kill here. Sleight of Fist going to dodge some spells from Carl.
Oh my
23
God.
Savage jumps in, and it's going to be a very quick kill on the Hanskin. In the meantime, Epicenter goes off, but there's the RP to counter it. And T1 taking 3 kills for themselves and taking basically no damage in this engagement.
Yeah, 23 Savage almost one-shot a Snapfire with Medallion.
Double damage as well.
They even
Nightmare. Let's get off the attribute shift, though. It's wow. Yeah, double damage still there for 23 Savage, and into the roach pit they go. T1 starting to run away with things.
Yeah, this is starting to get really ugly. They're just flat out outclassing Alliance right now. These last 5 minutes have not been pretty. They kind of equalized the early game Alliance did after having a tough lane mid, but haven't really been able to find much momentum from on the Ember Spirit. And the games we've seen Ember win in this tournament have largely been off. You know, you get out of lane, either you do very well or you at least stay afloat, and then the team sets up moves for you. Your hero is very high tempo and can do a lot, but it just hasn't really been the case for Alliance here. So you see this smoke and broken, rather.
Boom.
Not broke. Okay.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage.
They even find Limp bottom here in the picture-in-picture bottom right. Not sure if our observer found Limp, but
his dead body somewhere.
We can pinpoint the position of the corpse.
I mean,
in
he's
that bottom
specifically having a pretty rough game. 8K net worth versus the 10.5 from Lina.
Hanskin. Good ward placement. He will get some info and actually survive this, perhaps. It's going on quite the walk.
Yep, LS. Carl trying to find some more. TPs from Alliance are coming in, but the double burrow strike S4. BKB popped by Carl, though, and FNG is just going to go down to the right clicks. Nico Baby trying to find some sort of collateral kill here. Whitemon's just going to nightmare him, and 23 Savage in the vicinity, completely surrounded as Nico Baby. And 4 dead for Alliance, although technically Ember died quite a while before that. Hanskin, the last remaining member for now, attempting to TP, will be fine.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
And T1 just dominating this game number 1 of this best of 3. Again, if you're just joining us, this is an elimination series.
Yeah, crucial there, right? They go for the tower dive. S4 with a very good TP and Sandstorm double stun, but where's the follow-up? The other heroes just aren't in position. The way this starts is as a 10-second dive on Snapfire. They're taking so long to get in behind the tower and in position. You need more resources there. Like, if you want to take this fight, you need all the key heroes ready. You know you're behind in the game. You're not going to win fights 3v5. So either you bring the whole cavalry or you just drop it and lose a hero there. But Alliance tried to do a bit of both, and that's just not going to cut it at this level. And T1, they're doing a great job at administering their heroes, bringing them all around together, finding the team moves. And I mean, it's easy to say what Alliance have to do. It's a lot harder to do it.
Yeah, as you can see, the win probability greatly in favor of T1 as expected after getting off to this really, really fast start.
Yep. Gabe Newell's favorite hero used to be Sand King, as we've talked about before.
That is true. That's the 6%.
He moved on from it, right?
Oh, okay. 23 Savage. Yep, easy kill for him again. All right, that is a big kill for Alliance onto Carl. That's exactly what they need here. Unfortunately for them, 23 Savage still applying pressure to the tier 2 mid.
Yeah, it's gone.
And it's just gonna go down. Aegis hasn't even been claimed yet. Oh wait, yeah, it has.
This item on Wraith King is so good, Brigand's Blade, the neutral, because your first hit does so much damage that you immediately get into the threshold where it starts mattering really quickly. Crazy good. Okay, trivia.
Huskar.
Trivia.
Huskar's the answer.
Trivia after this fight.
All right, we got. That's not much of a fight. FNG's dead. Nico Baby waveforming to safety. 23 Savage and company not going to pursue any further.
You sure
Whitemon, okay, he gets a Fiend's Grip off. This will be another big kill for T1. Nope, Starbreaker not able to connect. He's going to be able to remnant it away for now. S4 taking so much damage will just be brought down to the right clicks alone. Whitemon finally dies. Such a pesky Bane Elemental. And Alliance getting some trades here.
Yeah, that's pretty good for Alliance given the circumstances. So you get a kill. Nico Baby gets 2, actually. He gets Cuckoo as well as Whitemon, so it's going to make some item progression here.
Yep.
Eyeing up a Linken's, this doesn't feel like a very strong build to me, just because, like, you're going to have these stats, but you don't have that massive combo play with, say, a Sand King when you go Ags, or some massive damage output from an E-Blade. So I'm just worried that the damage isn't going to be there when T1's heroes get a little bit bigger. That's going to be my main concern.
Is this one of those instances where when you're behind, you want to take more risks to try to get back into the game, and going Lincolns just feels too safe almost.
It's the thing, you know, I love to say this, you're playing not to lose rather than playing to win. And playing not to lose in this day and age in Dota rarely works in my experience. If you're behind, you need to go for the, let's say you have 15% chance of winning with a play, right? If it's the best chance you have, you take it even though the odds are terrible. Because the alternative is even worse, which is you don't go for it and then you just lose by default. And that is something I think, you know, not that we're going to be talking a lot about public games or anything, but I think that's a mentality that people are not particularly good at adapting to in their public games, is that if you're far behind, hiding away is not a winning strategy, pretty much ever, unless the enemy team is going to throw in your base.
Which happens.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the level of play,
in
right?
pubs than in pro play, though, right? So
it depends on the level of play, of course, but yeah, sometimes you just got to take the risk, even if the odds aren't good. Carl will be spotted up by S4. Well, who found who, actually?
Yeah, that's a good question. FNG jumps in. Comes the Solar Guardian, though, and just like that, T1 is here in numbers. FNG sacrificing himself to the gods here as S4 gets horn tossed and likely will be brought down next. So 2 quick kills for T1. And Alliance attempting to get out of dodge, but Hanskin can get spotted out. 23 Savage. Yeah, his arm length is apparently goes through Fog of War.
All right, here's my trivia. If you know this, what is something you would really want me to give you if you're right? I'm very confident you don't know this.
Okay, a Snickers.
A Snickers. Okay, if you're right, you'll get... All right, that's some free product placement right there.
True. I'll get you a Noble.
What is the name of the passive of Brigand's Blade?
The passive?
Yeah, the effect that it
There's
has.
no way. It's like something Mercy.
It's called Dark Mercy. That was pretty
I remember reading it. I couldn't remember the first word.
No idea. That's pretty good. You can get half a bar for that.
Right.
That's pretty impressive.
Are you going to eat the first?
If that gets you all excited, I will do it. I will do that for you. I'm a good friend.
So you say.
Oh, that's actually a Jenkins quote. Let's pretend I never said that.
True. So T1, yeah, this is shellacking for sure so far. Question is, what can Alliance do? They're going for that safe build on Nico Bay with the Lincoln Sphere. And really limp his build. It feels like, I mean, he has the BKB, which is really needed. The casual Sage with Maelstrom helps you farm, but
Nico is queuing up a Satanic next.
Really?
Again, it's I'm just worried about the damage, right? Like Ember went Sanj into BKB.
Well, I think, no, he's still going Lincolns, though, right? He has the ultimate orb.
He's queued it as his next quick buy, which usually when pro players do that, it's like, okay, the thought process is there, right? You're like, okay, this is the next thing I want. I think looking at Alliance's lineup, there's still a lot of value to an E-Blade, just because if you get a Blink Hex from Lion onto, say, Lina, you can actually burst someone instantly with all of the magic damage you have, but you're not really taking advantage of it. The downside to that kind of build is, well, where's your physical component in a lineup that's almost purely magical? So then that would be a problem. But this way you have neither, kind of, right? Your Morphling can play to survive, but he's not really going to kill, I think. So worrying here for Alliance, but of course, if they do win one fight because Morph survives and turns it around, then maybe they can find...
Quick Hex. S4. No, not going to go for the Epi.
Yeah. Good damage onto 23 Savage, but one of the great boons to Wraith King is this lifesteal. So 2 hits on the wave heals a lot.
And Nico Baby now with the Lincolns online. And yeah, a lot of, I mean, I guess not a lot. There's a decent amount of single target skills from T1. I'll take that off. But from Bane, it just takes so long to cast, right? Even in Feeble, it's a bit of a process, and especially against something like Morph. I can see the thought process for sure.
The cast point of Enfeeble is actually not that bad.
Did they? I guess they've changed that skill so much.
Yeah, I think it's a while ago that got changed, but it's always been considered a good Lincoln's Breaker skill just because it's high cast range and it's such a, I don't want to say unimportant spell, but you know what I mean, right? You're not throwing away your Nightmare to break a Lincoln so you don't have it defensively. This is one of the best spells in the game, in my opinion, against Lincolns. So all Whitemon needs to do is have good positioning, break the Lincolns with the Enfeeble, and then he can look for Fiend Script or Nightmare, whatever he wants to do on that Morph. All right, Burrow Strike.
That's 4. 23 Savage.
They are poking him quite well here.
Nice armlet toggle for now. He has the Deso going for the AC next.
Very close.
He will live.
Good
of course, he does have 2 lives, so it'll be difficult to take him out regardless.
All right, Sunsven trivia.
Oh boy.
For the second half of your bar.
Okay.
What is the passive of Dragon Scale?
Of that I have no idea. Let's say armor.
You know, based on some of the naming conventions we've had recently, that's not a bad guess. It is called Afterburn.
Yeah, I would not. That sounds like a shaving product almost. As we have Alliance.
Do you want to advertise more things here? What's the plan?
Not ready to go out quite yet. And his Alliance trying to do something here against T1, but the longer they wait, the more the deficit becomes, it seems. And Limp will just be TPing out for now, but has a Remnant available to come back into the fight if he wants.
That is a tanky courier. 23 Savage will get his Elven Tunic.
Yeah, and
What is
completed
the passive of Elven Tunic called?
I don't look at...
It doesn't have one. It was a trick question.
Well, technically it does have a passive.
3 passives, but no name.
No names. Yeah. All right, understood.
Dewarding here.
Oh my God! Gaben Lord Almighty.
Literal one-shot.
FNG. That hurt me.
You know, you're used to expecting this out of a PA in this stage of the game, but Wraith King essentially right now, that is the Wraith King version of one dagger and I'm die.
Yeah. I don't know, just 29 minutes PA?
One-shot.
I don't expect that still. Maybe 39.
With Mag on the team and Adesso? I don't know. I think I would kind of expect that.
Okay, well.
We have different levels of expectancy. I guess the PAs in your game don't have the same items at minute 29.
That's right, Cinder and S4 trying to mount some sort of a defense here, but this is with the Aegis online for Carl. Obviously, Wraith King doesn't need one. Although we do see them take it relatively often, but I like to see it on the Lina this game. Considerable amount of damage done to that tier 3 top, and T1 going to reset.
Carl hits really hard with this Empower. I think in a way it's still underappreciated when we commentate Empower. We are always focused on the melee heroes that get cleaves, they can farm ancients, etc. But having any hero that just attacks a lot inherently just gives Empower value, even if it's ranged, right? Lina has insane attack speed, so she's probably one of the best Empower heroes in the meta right now, actually better than some melee heroes. Oh my god, he found Limp.
The hack. Look at the LSA's not going to hit though. Carl, one of the few mistakes from T1 this game. Pretty much a masterful performance thus far.
No.
But they won't sweat it, I'm sure, as this lead is...
the chat wheel is on point. No mistake there. Playing the sad trombone is very appropriate there.
Yeah, we got the horn toss with the skewer into the RP. S4 is going to be the first to fall in all likelihood. Nico Baby staying alive at half. We'll get up to safety. So just one kill with that RP, but Carl pops the BKB against the LSA with a buyback onto S4 now. Starbreaker connects. Here comes a Solar Guardian as well. Nico Baby, very tanky right now with that Lincoln Sphere. Nice Burrow Strike epicenter combination from S4. Zephyr trying to get to safety with that hammer, but it's not going to happen. So the 1-for-1 with the buyback. Carl and company. Looks like they're going to lose the Dawnbreak at the very least. S4 continuing to be a pest here with these Burrow Strikes. Gets one kill. Looks like Wraith King is next. That's after the reincarnation, so T1 have to back off.
That's a very
nice
good
defense
hold
from Alliance.
Yeah, they only had to use a Sand King buyback and all of that. Arguably, maybe, you know, Carl getting a little bit overzealous trying to kill the Morph. As we talked about, it's a tanky Morphling, and you don't necessarily have to kill Nico Baby in a position like that. You can safely, you know, go for other heroes that die a lot faster or try to push the tower, but got a little bit bloodthirsty. You can get carried away in these positions, and again, this RP is good, but great counterplay from Hanskin to get that double Earth Spike. Lina didn't pre-BKB for this. And that will save Nico Baby getting him out. And this is where the overcommitment happens, right? So you go for this, go very, very deep. Solar Guardian, I believe, got interrupted here by another good 2-hero stun from FNG. And now you're just in a really compromised position. Limp also
not only
doing tons
is
of damage here.
Morphling tanky, but it's not really doing that much damage. It's not like he went the E-Blade build or anything like that, so you can just go for the other kills.
And now Nico has the item I like to see. He's got the axe. So now he can turn into Sand King, and that's big. This gives them a double Burrow Strike combination play. He needs to be careful. He's taking so much damage from Carl.
He is, but looks like he's fine for now. His Limp creating a lot of space here with the Laguna Blade. S4 a little bit too far this time.
Yeah, and he doesn't have buyback, and T1 obviously know this. They just bought back in the enemy base, so this does open up a potential push down mid play for them.
And that actually is pretty big because Morphling can't turn into Sand King now.
Carl found Limp with the Blink Stun.
The Centaur stop not going to be there in time. Limp. BKB attempting to TP, but the RP cancel. Down he goes. Does have buyback, though.
ESJ.
Still a minute 20 left on the Aegis for T1. But best case scenario for Alliance, this is a 5 versus 4 once this buyback comes out. But like I said, Morphling can't turn into Sand King for another 40 seconds, so this Ag, like... Snapfire could be good later in the game. I don't even know. Do the talents even... Does that work through talents once you get the little shredder thing? As this Rax is going to be a complete freebie for T1.
So fast. Like, Lina is just an absolute artillery. That's not really the right word. Machine gun was what I was looking for. Going
A
straight in front
trebuchet,
of the net.
Syndra, your favorite. Carl, doing a blade, down goes Snapfire. They're trying to preserve the buyback. Nope, not anymore. That's 2 right off the bat here. And you can see S4 will be back in 10 seconds, but it's going to be 2 full sets of racks for T1.
Yeah, and they might back off here and wait for the next RP. You don't have to risk any push here in order to finish the game. If you wait 50 seconds, you might feel like it's pretty much in the bag. Gaben giving Alliance 1% here.
Okay.
Very gracious.
I mean, to be fair, S4 in that original high ground defense did a really good job.
Gives them 0. He's had enough.
Oh, boy.
You started talking about Sand King, and Gaben was like, I don't like this hero anymore. So there goes your last %. Thanks, Sunsfan. You ruin everything you touch, don't you?
That's true.
Yeah, okay.
Aegis is now
kind of like Kyle with predictions.
Yeah, that's actually an uncanny skill that he has.
It's pretty impressive.
And T1 looking to finish this game, although no Aegis to work with now, and Alliance obviously know that, and this is going to be their best chance to win a fight. I look for Nico Baby to morph into S4 soon.
I bet Kyle, I challenge you, Kyle, to tweet right now, T1 has this in the bag.
Yeah.
Let's see how strong the purse is. If you do that and T1 end up losing, you will get a candy bar of your choice from me.
Of your choice? Wow. He might
There
not
are
have time to actually take out his
and
phone.
maybe quite exquisite and expensive candy bars out there if you know where to look. So that's a lot to gain here for Kyle, and no risk even.
That's true. Well, the risk is ruining his image of getting everything wrong.
That's true. That's actually pretty valuable to him, I think.
I think so too. I think he's really enjoying that.
Yep. Has to be fun.
T1 looks like they're ready to go and trying to finish this game. S4 wants to defend. We'll see how much they have in the tank here. T1 going to be happy with the tier 3. We'll back and reset.
Push can respawn in 2 minutes. If you want to, you can wait for this.
I can't blame them. I mean, this is TI.
High stakes.
TI 10, lower bracket. Another shout out. You can actually check the bracket right now. That's a new addition to the extension. If you go to the standings, it shows the full bracket. Very nicely done.
Okay, Sunsfan, I have a trivia for you.
Oh, boy.
What is the passive
Enough with these passives
of Mindbreaker called? I'll give you a hint.
Okay.
You like very simple names.
Silence.
That's the first word. What is the second word?
Is it silent something?
Yes.
Silent strike.
Silence strike. Okay, you get your point. That's a really good guess.
Thank you.
All right.
Beautiful.
Definitely didn't look over my shoulder there and cheated the test.
I would never do that.
No, you actually didn't, did you? I trust you.
Why would I?
You have so much to gain from this.
No, I'd like to look like an idiot,
Your image.
actually.
Oh, that's true. You and Kyle should start a team.
Maybe we should start a new podcast together. Might be an opening pretty soon. Is 31K network lead for T1. And definitely playing a little bit different.
Portas.
Yeah, Portas is there, and S4 is dead. 60 seconds on the deck.
That skewer range talent is so absurd. Like, you're expecting that skewer to stop any second now, and it just keeps going.
Yeah. I mean, this feels like, I mean, you talk about Elder Titan. I feel like Magnus feels like the hero of the tournament right now, in a lot of ways.
Is doing very
Getting
well.
through a lot. You see the overwhelming lead come in. We didn't catch it on camera, but a lot of damage being done by T1. And it looks like the Fiend's Grip is there as GG's will come out for game 1. This was a shellacking, Syndra. And T1 up 1-0.
There's no need to sugarcoat it, really. That was just... Yeah, that was not even close. Okay, that was just not even close. T1 basically... T1 came out of a stronger laning stage. Alliance had a couple of good moves in the first 10 minutes, but after that it was just all T1 all the way to the bank. And they secured themselves game number 1 with a 39k gold lead here. Alliance, I think adjustments for game number 2, you probably, if you're drafting like this and you give the enemy team Magnus and you give them like this strong team fight and a favorable mid matchup, you have to play around Limp more. Like, this needs to go fast. team be comfortable, right? And they were just comfortable the whole time. T1 just looked in their element the whole game.
Well, still, just one game. They can try to shake this off. They have a lot of experience, of course, but this is a best-of-3 Cinderman. But let's see what the panel has to say about this first game going to T1.
Thank you very much. Lovely to see Cinder and also rocking the maroon hashtag Team Merlot. But we've got to start by seeing if you guys agree with our lovely casters there. Do you think Alliance played well in the first 10 minutes, Owen?
I mean, it was better than the other minutes of the game. So, relatively sure. But, I mean, overall, it's I mean, it was what I expected. And it was more so what I expected when they let them get this Magnus and Lina. I mean, I don't know how you can expect to beat T1 on the main stage when you let them have these two heroes, which have clearly been their best heroes so far of the tournament. I guess they wanted an impossible challenge. They certainly got it that game.
They did talk about the reason they beat Beast Coast as being their preparation and not feeling any pressure. So why on earth wouldn't they ban that Magnus after watching LGD yesterday?
There's just too many heroes that you need to be banning. Maybe that's the thing, right? Like versus Zephyr, you need to ban out that ET earlier that every single team is banning or picking. Then you have the Doom, then you have the 23 Savage Medusa. There's just too many components here that they're thinking of. Maybe they thought, okay, this is probably the easiest for us to beat. It's also their comfort zone. We can't ban everything out, so let's give them the Mag and the Lina and try to work with it. It didn't work out.
But they did seem unprepared, because even going into their first picks, they were using reserve time. That was a huge shock to me. You come into a best of 3 in game 1 particularly, where you've had, you know, the entire night to prepare. You should know exactly what you're going to be picking in that first phase based on your opponent, because they knew they were going to leave the Magnus. They had to have had a game plan for a first pick Magnus, and they went in reserve time for 2 picks.
Yeah, and we were talking about S4 having these marvelous games. Sometimes this definitely wasn't one of those. Maybe he was micromanaging the team a little bit too much and they weren't helping him. I feel like, yeah, you need to activate Limp, you need to help out your mid laner, but as well, your Sand King can't be 111. Your Sand King can be completely stomped in the laning stage, because who will make any plays for your side then?
Well, looking at the draft, do you think that Sand King was ever part of the plan?
Maybe not plan A. I mean, I think not many. There are some teams last pick and they were offlaner, but it felt like when they got to his pick, there was not much left that was going to fit the game for him. And I think this game really highlighted, you know, why most teams don't have their kind of shot caller, their captain playing the offlane role, because it is really hard to do both when you're a core player, you know, winning your lane as well as trying to lead your team.
And also quite shocking for T1. That could have been the fastest game they've actually played here at the main event of TI. We should probably see if we can get our stats guy on that one, because I'd be really interested to know. Do you think the pace was simply because T1 just had the confidence, they knew it, they had it in the bag, or because there was a risk of Alliance actually being able to scale up and take back the tempo, Owen?
I mean, maybe if the game went... I mean, I don't know. Sure, they had a more fun Alliance, but they were just so far behind. I don't know if any amount of duration of that game would have made things any better for them. Like, they were just so far behind. I think T1, they're happy to play the game at any stage. We just see that high ground push where things started to go, ooh, they were 23k up, so they're pretty comfortable. T1 obviously resetting, and then they sort of did what they've done in a lot of the other games that we've seen here, really. A team that's very, very safe, and they make sure not to throw games away. There was just that little bit of a premature push down the mid, but other than that, they were ready to fall back to the same way they've won a lot of their games, which is just sort of stall it out, get this incredible lead, and get to the point where there's just no chance for the enemy.
You can imagine what they were going for, right? With the Sand King and the Morphling, there is synergy there. It's not like Sand King it was something completely unprepared. You have the Aghanims on the Morphling, then Sand King, double stuns, double Sandstorms. It can be really difficult to deal with, but they got there way too late. I think they let the Wraith King ramp up way too fast. Armlet, Dezo, and Blink Dagger.
That was great.
Yeah, it was just all in fights. Just go straight, no Radiance, no shenanigans, no farming, just fight constantly. And it worked out for T1.
I was going to say, what did we like about 23 Savage's Wraith King? I mean, what was there not to like, to be fair?
Well, yeah, it was everything. It was none of this. I think we saw Wraith King in the group stage. I can't remember which team played it, but it was like Midas, Radiance, farming. And I mean, this game, 23 Savage, he goes to prove you get these items, you fight, and you're making just as much money as the Wraith King that's going to go AFK and just hit creeps all game and then inevitably lose the game, because the hero just doesn't feel that good when it's played in that sort of Midas, Radiance, AFK way. You want to do exactly what 23 Savage did here. I was a little hesitant when I saw the pick come up last, because I was worried that, oh, maybe they're going to do that. But then, of course, it's like, no, it's T1. T1. They're going to fight. They're going to brawl. They're going to get him involved at every possible moment. And yeah, we saw him one-shotting heroes. You know, poor old, what was it, FNG or something, just disappears underneath the blade of him. I mean, he was having a great time. And I think that's awesome to see, you know, T1 bringing out these sort of carries that aren't necessarily the top carries of the meta and just showing how strong and confident they are. It just goes to show we've not seen everything that T1's ready to show on the main stage. They've definitely got lots up their sleeve.
I've now got a new mantra to play in Grave King. Why waddle when you can blink? Why did Purge never teach me that before when I was trying to play Grave King and I was complaining about how slow his animation is when trying to get last hits? Do you think actually now we're going to see more Wraith King, now that 23 Savage has showed it could be viable at the main event?
I'm not quite sold. I think Magnus also enabled the hero quite a bit.
I don't think we loved the pick at the time, but perhaps we underestimated what... I think the Magnus is a big part of why you don't have to go for the Radiance build, because you do have that, you know, flash from empower ability, so...
It's definitely a strong hero, and 23 Savage, what amazes me is that this guy, he hasn't been at the TI before. He was just picked up. He played a little bit in Vici Gaming. Well, not really played, and then they took him to T1, and he's already on the main stage of the international, and he's picking heroes that are not in the meta and feeling extremely comfortable on them. That's huge. That just shows the confidence.
Yeah. I have a feeling big things are ahead for this kid. But right now, we're actually going to take a trip down memory lane and see when big things were afoot for Alliance.
My favorite memory from past TS would be TI3, where we Alliance won. I remember almost every game I played, because most of the games we played there really stood out. It was my first TI I went to, and for me, it was just completely new. Since I watched the previous TIs, I watched TI2, and that's where I got like really into Dota. And going into my first TI in TI3, I would pretty much remember everything about that TI.
I was, I believe, 15 or 16 years old boy who was watching TI1, and I'm still a fan of competitive scene of the Dota, so I can't say, like, you know, I'm only the player. Yeah, right now I'm the player, but also, since I worked as a talent on 3 TIs, I know the feeling when you watch the game and you want to play it, but you also want to watch it because you see good players compete at it. This, like, you know, one step being fan and one step being player is like such a cool feeling, actually.
I did watch the TI1. But I was not into it so much. But TI2 was really when I was like, wow, this game is good. I need to really, I want to be these guys, you know?
The best TI? Well, I mean, all of them are best, you know? It depends on what makes it the best for you, you know? Is it the players? Is it the place? Is it the tournament itself, you know? In the end of the day, it's still like a huge, like a holiday, basically, you know, where you legit enjoy yourself, enjoy your games, enjoy the show, and just love your life, you know?
What do you think is the future of TI? Do you think there will ever not be a TI? Are we going to make it to TI 100? What do you think?
In the end, it's the fans who support the most, right? Like, we get this huge prize pool because fans love the game and they're trying to be part of it in any way they can. So as long as there are fans and community, it will go, like, you know, infinity.
Do you guys have any memories of TI3?
A lot, yeah. That finals, I mean, the TI3 Na'Vi Alliance is like one of the craziest Game 5 Grand Finals ever, the comeback. And I remember just sitting in the stands. I was next to the Korean commentators who were at the event, and they're just screaming, going crazy. The Russian commentators on the other side of them, they're going absolutely wild throughout the entire game as well. And it was just... The Battle Royale whole atmosphere was one of the kind of most electric places to be because it was that kind of smaller, more intimate venue. And yeah, it just produced so many amazing matches.
Given that S4 was part of that winning lineup, were you quite excited when you saw him return to the Alliance brand?
For sure. Everyone wanted him back on Alliance. They struggled since pretty much TI3. So with him returning, you're thinking, okay, they can do it again. And I really like what FNG said. It's not about the TI itself when it comes to the Dota and the games. It's about what makes it special for you. It's the experience that you had. And TI3 for me is exactly that. It's what TI1 was for him. That's TI3 for me. It's one of those first ones that I watched that made me really love the game and try and get there. eventually I did get there, but not necessarily as a player.
Well, listen up, guys. F&G, he worked 3 TIs as talent, and now he's playing in a booth.
There's still chance.
There's still a chance, but who is the most likely to be chosen to play TI? Hashtag TI10, let us know. But right now, our teams are taking to the stage, and thank goodness for them, none of us are among their ranks. T1 and Alliance. This could be the last game we see Alliance play on the stage here at the National Arena in Bucharest, Romania. So tensions are going to be slightly high in the booth. Meanwhile, T1, let's see if they got a taste for fast games after that one. So much is going to be on the draft in this one. And Alliance, they're the only team here who don't have a coach. Obviously, we saw Jake talking to March earlier. He's a coach you want on your side. For Alliance, if you could give them any advice, I know it's a difficult spot to be in, what do you want to see them do next in this next game, Lizard?
I always go back to OG and how they would talk in the booth after a loss. Just forget about the game. We're here to win. Enjoy it. Rely on each other. You can do it. Just get the good vibes going. Get that PMA going. Believe in yourself. Believe in what worked for you throughout the DPC seasons, and try your best.
Yeah, I never feel like there's anything you can say that's going to change, like, in terms of, like, strategy or skill. It's all you can do is focus on where your head's at when you're looking at, you know, bouncing back from a tough loss.
Owen?
I'd say, you know, focus on just changing it up. You know, Alliance, I think they do best when they come in one game. If they lose, you know, just going for something completely different. And this man, I keep calling for, I just want to see him play as Void. I know that they do like having him on, like, the Morse, the Deuces, or the AFK, but I really think Nico Baby, get him involved earlier, get him active. They're lacking something when they're just sort of fighting with the 4 of them against a team like T1. Get Nico Baby on something that he can turn up to the fight and fight back against this just incredible power that T1 brings early.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think this team is very similar to that Mineski team that Nico Baby was on last TI. The only time they were winning games was when Nico Baby was, like, solo carrying the game, getting involved, and he was like, he's the guy. Yeah. I don't feel like, you know, Alliance isn't a team that can do it like OG did yesterday, where Sumail gets completely shut down, but they still win the game because everyone else steps up. Limp, S4, they're just not those guys. They're going to play stable, they're going to be consistent, but Nico Baby is the win condition for Alliance every single game.
So what is so special about Nico Baby's Void?
Oh, it's just great. I mean, the hero's still good. I think he's underpicked, really. And I don't know. And so this day and age where you have so many of these heroes sort of raising up in the meta, like these ETs, it's just a perfect setup. And, you know, what's better against these teams that want to try and brawl as a 5-man than a hero that's going to be able to turn up, lock them in position, and set up a turnaround?
I would love to see that. I would love to see Nico Baby on some full comfort zone, but his Morphling is also really scary. So I would maybe take my attention elsewhere. I would take it to the offlane and the mid lane, and no matter what you pick for Nico Baby, make sure that the other 2 lanes are doing well. So even if you sack him early on, if you get him a bad matchup like that Void versus something that's decent versus Venomancer or whatnot, make sure that Limp and S4 are having a good time, because they will be the ones that get you through that mid game. They didn't have a mid game in that last game. The first game was awful in that aspect.
They need to pick their heroes earlier, I feel like. They first 2 picked the 2 supports. S4 had last pick when half, you know, his best heroes are all banned. There was no Tide, there was no Mars. All these teamfight specialists that he likes to play weren't available. And Limp, you know, they could have first 2 picked the Lina, so I feel like they need to prioritize making sure they get those comfort picks so that S4, Limp can have those kind of consistent performances.
This is the funny thing about Alliance. They did incredibly well in DPC. I mean, they came first back in May. What were they doing well there? Can you remember, Gods? It is a while ago.
Yeah, no, I mean, they were just consistent. I mean, this is, I think, always the story. I think I was talking to Owen about this before. They played consistent Dota. What's that look, Owen?
I was smiling.
We're not used to seeing it.
Yeah.
When he's off camera, he's a miserable git. I am only joking. He's absolutely delightful. And hopefully this game will be too. Game number 2, Alliance versus T1.
Alliance versus T1. Game 2.
Welcome. New draft, new panel. We have replaced some of our panel members. My name's still Plus, and I'm joined by Tall Fog and Canadian Effie, also known as Purge and Jenkins.
Yeah, that's basically right. You got it.
Yeah?
I'm fine with that.
Right, cool.
We'll take it.
Well, we are getting into game number 2 between T1 and Lions. And in last game, we saw a pretty dominant performance by T1, especially mechanically. They're always that top team. There's a hero that stood out to me, as he tends to, which is the Magnus. And I know, Jenkins, you've been praising this hero a lot this TI.
Yeah, so I've been trying to think about what makes this hero tick. Why is it that it feels so strong in this TI? And I think there's an element of, it's obviously really strong, and I like that people are respecting it now and finally banning it out. But my theory was that in TI, people 5-man because they don't want to lose. You really don't want to lose. You just want to play safe. The whole, family theory. The comfort of being around your teammates. You're not going to be the one that's like throwing the game. I also think at TI, with that 5-manning, the value of being able to like fish for kills goes up immensely. So, it's a cursed name, but Pudge, for example, has been good at previous TIs for the same reason. You have this wall that's being formed with a really good team. You hook somebody out, all of a sudden it disrupts everything. And then also, BKBs is also something that as things get more and more pressured, as you're playing safer and safer, BKB comes earlier and earlier in the builds. And what does Magnus have as his ultimate? It's like the best BKB piercing disable in the game.
And I think the most important thing for Magnus there about the pick-off thing is that you don't necessarily have to commit RP to get those pick-offs now.
Yep.
You can either use Shockwave to collect them or Horn Toss, so it's way less resources to go for those fishes than it used to be.
Yep, 100%.
Sorry, I can't gloss over this point. You say Pudge was good at previous TIs?
He was good at previous TIs.
Like TA6, right?
Yeah.
When they picked it in the final?
Of course.
And the one game they lost?
Yes, of course.
Was with Pudge.
I did a replay review of that game.
Yeah.
Very depressing.
Yeah, it was, yeah. just little thing. I want to talk about another hero that we've been seeing a lot. Actually, this combo is pretty strong, as was Fogged was suggesting for Alliance, the Snapfire Tide. The Tide made sense within this team fight idea, but what has made the Snapfire resurge so much?
A lot of it is just that she has a free force staff for their second skill, and because teams are so good at TI, sometimes even 300 distance is enough to keep somebody alive from a gank. So the fact that she has that from the beginning to the end of the game, plus high coordination, makes it amazing. Her ulti is great for getting kills. Her laning stage is really solid, especially when you pair her with a minus armor dual lane like the Tide setup. They have a much higher chance to get kills, and that's one of the issues with Alliance's lineup in the previous match, was that it was Snapfire plus Sand King. It isn't really that synergistic other than a double stun, so it wasn't the best dual lane. They ended up not doing so good against the Wraith King, and I think this is going to be a much better way to play.
I think also on top of what you said about, people are obviously much better at TI than during DPC or something like that. With Snapfire and even though it's only 300 units, in TI, there's a lot of combos. There's a lot of team fight for all of the reasons that we've already talked about. And so combo breakers have immense amounts of value. And so any hero that can do that, whether it's a hero that gets an early force staff or a hero that has one built in, it's going to be good.
All right, and on the T1 side, this time, we see the double support combo, Lion and Treant Protector. I actually want to talk to you, Jenkins or Purge, about the idea of draft theory, because we've been seeing this a lot. That if you have the two straight picks in the first phase, they are starting with supports always, right? They're not revealing a core here. Can you explain to me why that mentality might be?
Well, for T1, one thing that they've done, it was in the Animator that I noticed it, but something that they've done a lot is that they pick complementary heroes in the first phase. So I don't necessarily know if it's important that it's support. To me, it's more so with this team that both of these heroes cover a lot of bases. You have a Treant Protector who's going to be protecting all of the towers. Right. He's going to be sitting in a side lane pushing out creep waves. Does Lion hit a single creep in Dota? Absolutely not. This hero is like completely looking for kills. He's standing in trees, but he needs lanes to be pushed out in order to do that, and that's what Tree does. Tree pushes lanes. So having a hero that can play in side lanes in Tree and push out creep waves, and then having a hero that can actually gank off of it is really important. And then between these two heroes, there's also not a lack of disable. They do good disable. They do good damage. T1 does this. They cover all of their bases in their first 2 picks, so that way their final 3 picks can be whatever makes sense for the enemy lineup.
And it's so much easier to be flexible when that's the case, because then you don't have to make up for lackings. You don't have to worry about maybe your lane pairings be weak. That's a lot of the reason that Alliance opened like they did. A lot of teams are doing this. You grab your 4 and your 3. It's a really synergistic combo, and it brings this much bigger threat against the enemy carry position, who now has to say, like, well, we can't be greedy at all. We also have to pick something good, and it's just going to restrict your opponent's options.
And to add to that point, the 4 and the 3, when they pick it, is always in the first and fourth pick in the first phase. So you can actually protect the 3 a bit with the next 3 bans. And this will change what happened in the last game, but the Sand King didn't seem that strong in the laning phase?
Well, I briefly watched the beginning of the replay, and what mostly cost him, he went Caustic Finale level 1, which is not that weird against a Wraith King. You can do lots of damage. But I hearken it back to that dual lane issue between Snapfire and Sand King. What happened is Wraith King got a couple more denies than Sand King. It took like 2-ish minutes for them to get level 2 or something. It was a bit delayed due to the denies. And as a result, he doesn't have Burrow Strike for a while, so they just have no kill potential on the Bane. And because Bane was such a good laning hero, he actually ended up getting like a range creep pulled to the large camp. Then he stacked his small camp. Then he pulled his double stack small camp. This is stuff that's like pretty unheard of typically in the laning stage right now.
Yeah, that's insanely game losing.
So like that advantage that they got out of it forced them into this like constant separation where Sand King didn't even get to play next to Snapfire. So then Wraith King just has an abundance of net worth advantage, and he still has a Magnus, so it's just going to get more worse for Alliance as the game continues. So it was a lot of a laning issue, but some of that was certainly draft specific.
Okay. Do you think it would have changed if they had not gone for Caustic Finale level 1? Like Burrow Strike or Sandstorm, would that have made a difference?
If it wasn't Bane, maybe, because Bane has pretty high armor, so he's going to resist a little Shredder, and he's going to be able to offset some of that heal with Brain Sap. So I think if it's a slightly weaker support, absolutely. But I think they did the right thing in the circumstance. It's just they didn't lane well enough, and they got pulled on too much.
Yeah, that's the thing. Sand King notoriously is a hero that really struggles between levels 1 through 3. But once you have high levels in Sandstorm, it's really easy to lane because you just press Sandstorm, push the creep wave out. If the enemies go on you, you just stun them in it, and they take a ton of damage. So delaying his level 3 timing is extremely important. T1 did that, and with heroes like Bane and Wraith King, who have a huge amount of kill threat and lane harass, it's really hard to play into that if you've messed up the first 3 levels. So it was like amplified by the fact that T1 had such a strong lane.
So now we hear the clapping, of course, the audience going crazy because Earthshaker has been picked. And this hero has been moved from the previous 4-5 we used to see him in into the 3 position this TI. What led to this change in your opinion, Purge?
I'm not sure specifically what made him more popular there, but he kind of did fall off as a 4. Typically, like, he can like lane block people, and that's very effective, but because it's dual lanes, Earthshaker, without his shard being busted, which it was during the DPC at one point, he just felt weaker as a support. But now as a 3, it's like you still get the best of both worlds. You can lane quite well against a lot of cores, and then your impact in terms of team fights is excellent because of Blink Dagger combos. So it is certainly, I would say, top 3 off-lane hero right now.
Yeah,
so
really
no surprise to see it on T1.
Okay. Do you think the cleave they added to Enchant Totem might have helped him?
It definitely helps, yeah. That's something that like he scales better. My opinion on Earthshaker is that he's been pretty decent as an offlaner for quite some time, just because he has that like natural tankiness that's so annoying in an offlaner. Magnus has that as well, where you go to kill him and he's just some 3,000 HP hero. If he goes for treads at like 15 minutes, like, okay, this is... But then on top of that, I also think that the game is being played a lot faster than can support a position for Earthshaker, who you can't really take a lane to farm your blink these days. Like, in that timing, a team is going to beat you. That's just how Dota has kind of felt for like the last 5 to 6 months, where the hero has fallen off. But you're farming in the lane as Earthshaker, so the timing, you get it like 5 minutes earlier, and in that 5-minute window, you're not going to lose the game.
We see a FNG special, which is a Crystal Maiden. We've seen it, I think, once before, not to great success this hero. I think it was T1 actually picked against LGD. Why? Why the Crystal
Maiden? It. It's a lane stabilizer. It's good at harassing. It's going to lower attack speed. That's pretty effective in some of those early trades, and it's going to just make it a lot harder for them to kill Medusa in the laning stage.
Is she like a poor man's coddle here for the Medusa?
I wouldn't necessarily. I mean, I guess it's kind of similar. You're blasting opponents, getting lane trade advantages, but extra mana regen on Tide and Snapfire are great too. It's going to make them be able to harass more often in the laning stage.
Is she going to be an easy target for the Slark, though?
Eventually. You know, Slark is a later timing hero where, at least looking at this draft for Alliance, I see the Dusa CM lane, which presumably it's going to be that. Even if they put Snapfire and did some, CM4, like that would still do very well against Earthshaker Lion. You know, Lion is very killable. Earthshaker's a hero who's going to sit on the wave. So you're super susceptible from the harass that's going to come out from the Mystic Snake and one of the nukes from either of these 2 supports. And if Snapfire comes in ganks, that's even more potential to kill an Earthshaker. So, you know, I feel like Alliance is going to get a lot of farm this game on both of their supports.
Now, if we look at the Slark a bit, I'd actually like to propose a problem here, and I would like a solution from you, Jenkins. So, you have no instant stuns, only roots here. Cookie is not going to surprise him. He's going to Dark Pact, unless you blink Ravage onto him, of course. That's the only solution. What is the Alliance's solution to this? Because mid laners don't usually carry that instant stun, except maybe DK.
You know, Force Staff's kiting him. Like I said, I think they're going to get farmed between their supports. So
Okay.
there's that option. You're right. There's not much instant stun. I do think with a Dusa, with a Tide, you can kite a Slark enough where you just catch him after his 2 Dark Packs and after his ult. I think that's actually possible. But you probably do want a little bit more. You do want a little bit more. You don't want to just rely on that, because if the Slark is popping off, then he's just going to stick on you. He's just going to get tons of stacks, and you're playing these long fights against him. He's like, okay, that's great for me. If he has +1 item on the Dusa especially, it's just impossible to play. So some instant disabler, you know, some hero who might build an Orchid would be great.
Oh, that's a good idea, actually. What kind of hero could that be?
Any typical Spirit hero is usually the way that you end up seeing as Slark
Kunkka
counters.
makes sense.
Kunkka would have been great because you can X him and bring him back no matter whether or not he's going to Dispel or not. So that would have given them some easier setup kills. And that's the issue with Alliance's draft. They don't really cross the map super well to get kills. So I definitely agree that they need somebody to be that start of the fight, because Crystal Maiden wants to play behind these tanky heroes, land her spells, sit back for 10 seconds, go back in again. Snapfire is going to want to have somebody that can start fights to make her ultimate feel useful. So
there it is. Okay.
Void Spirit is perfect for that. Jump in, disable somebody, maybe with a Yules, and allow your team to follow up, get a kill.
You build up an Orchid like you were suggesting?
I think so. I think this is a good Orchid game. I mean, people are like usually opting to go for a different style of Void Spirit build, which is the Yule Scepter into Sanjin Kaya, and you're just going for this like late game high magic damage build. But I think in this game against the Slark, it does make sense. It does depend on the timings. Like if Slark is already having a bad game, you don't necessarily have to build the Orchid. It's fine to not build the Orchid because the Slark's not a problem. You can just kill him with your ground targeted nukes, for example. But it's definitely in the cards. We're more likely to see it in this game than in the other Void Spirit games that we've seen.
Could you also build an Ags as an alternative to set up for the Slark? I mean, it's 2-second silence, not something you usually need to look out for.
Yeah, for sure.
It's probably a lot safer because then there's a lot of heroes on the Dire lineup that you're going to want to silence. So Ags is going to be raw, a lot more survivability for Void Spirit. That's probably more important than the extra right-click damage and higher mana regen.
It is. It depends on how he's like. If I think Void Spirits tend to go for the Orchid, like if they're having a really good game.
Yeah.
I think that's just like Orchid in general. We see that on Spectre as well, where Spectres are not really building the Orchid unless you're like so farmed that you're going to get your next item at the same timing that you would without the Orchid because you're getting kills with it. So that's just kind of where Orchid falls as an item in Dota right now.
The biggest thing Team 1's missing right now is they need a hero that's going to go frontline and spot enemy squad. Slark can do that with Shadowblade or if he's just generally tanky and ready to go, but they don't really have a frontliner, and Ember Spirit's going to be perfect for that. Somebody that can jump in and set up fights and look for the Echo Slams after.
All right, well, I want to hear from you, Purge, then. What do you like about this T1 lineup?
I like that they can be very aggressive. They have tons of disables. If they do catch one of these heroes, they can probably kill them, but it's going to be really hard against Tide and Dusa because they have so much survivability as well as Kraken Shells. So there's good stuff about them. They got to split up Alliance and kill them one by one.
Jenkins, for Alliance?
I think that Alliance has good heroes for ganking. I think they have good heroes for the early game and the Void Spirit and their 4-man around the Dusa. And I also think that they can play the long fights. I know T1 has Slark, but I still think that the long fights eventually will favor Alliance once they get enough items on their Dusa.
Is there anything they should be worried about as Alliance? Some weaknesses at this draft?
Laning stage maybe for Tide. In most of the group stage games, we saw Slark get banned out against Tidehunter for worries of that extra harass. And with it being a tree, that's a pretty aggressive dual lane with Leech Seed and the Bramble, whatever, Nature's Grasp. There we go.
Yes. I've heard that lane's not actually so bad for the
from BSJ
for the Tide anymore. Yeah, it was from BSJ, so maybe I should take that with a grain of.
No, he's a Slark spammer, right?
He's a Slark. He's an offlane player too, as well. So.
Помогите, помогите, помогите.
Thank you, Slacks. Recycling memes as always. That's your entire job description these days. Suns fan here with Synderin. T1 versus Alliance. Game 2 of this best of 3 in the lower bracket. How do you like these lineups this time around, Synderman?
I think I like how Alliance this game have solved a bit more of the team fight problem they had in the last game. I think the way their lineup groups around Medusa can work really well. But that said, I also think T1 have some really great tools. To me, this T1 lineup feels like Assassination Squad, right? You've got Ember, Lion, as well as Slark, who can immediately take advantage of any fissure, any overgrowth that you find from the tree line, and just get in there. I think the biggest challenge for Alliance, honestly, in this game is to keep their supports alive. I don't think playing Crystal Maiden is particularly fun in a game like this.
You could have just stopped it.
and even Snapfire, who's a relatively tanky support and stands far back, you're just not safe against these heroes. And a little bit of a problem is the protection that you have against Ember and Slark is relatively limited, right? Like, what do you have? You have Ravage, Frostbite, and a Cookie, and a bit of a stretch you have Aether Remnant, but that one's going to be hard to land. And Slark can purge off all of this if he times it well. So I think Alliance absolutely paramount this game. Get off to a good start in the lanes, and you need honestly just stellar positioning on supports in this game to not just end up feeding.
Right. I mean, last game T1 got off to a really good start, and just I mean, that was basically the game. It felt like it just snowballed out of control of Alliance, and they weren't able to really do much from there on out. As top lane, we are seeing some action. Zephyr playing the Treant Protector, which we'll talk about in just a moment here. Actually, we can do it now, Cinder. Your thoughts on this pick, since a lot of other teams don't pick Treant at all.
Yeah.
But T1, one of the few exceptions.
I had this theory, actually, that so in the group stage, we had a couple of games with Quincy Crew. I think that was in day 1, where they picked Treant in 2 games in a row, and it just didn't really work for them. And I had this theory, okay, maybe they've been scrimming against T1 and been rolled. Because, like, almost no other team, like you said, plays it. Oh, Zephyr is in trouble. He will be fine, though. No, almost no other team plays it, and it's been respect banned against T1 by basically every team. PSG even yesterday showing respect to Zephyr's Treant, so we'll see what it's all about here. I honestly like that Alliance let it through to change things up in this game, because obviously the last game just wasn't working out.
Yeah.
So they're choosing to give something else over and see what they can do about it. Unfortunately, to me, this is a really good Treant Protector lane, so I don't think they address the hero very well in the laning stage, and that's a really big part of what T1 use it for, is this hyper-aggressive play coming out from Zephyr.
Yeah, and Zephyr, of course, I mean, Tree as a hero, highest base damage in the entire game, so the level 1 potential in terms of just trading right clicks is better than anybody in the entire game. As you can see, Carl playing the Ember Spirit this time around versus Limp's Void Spirit, so the Spirit Brothers at it again. Looks relatively even right now. I mean, who would you favor just hero-to-hero matchup between these two?
In the mid lane?
Yeah.
I think it's pretty much a wash, honestly. This lane very often ends with a draw. Comes down to who gets the first gank, or like sometimes I think the player who's most likely to find a kill, or the hero rather, that's most likely to find a kill in this lane is probably the Ember. But either way, it generally comes off the back of overconfidence, overstepping to get CS. You're going to see them play completely neck and neck here, right? They're getting the exact same CS, the exact same items. Literally identical inventories, just with different item orientation. Same number of bottle charges. Oh, Carl used his Tango.
Oh boy.
You got to follow suit. Doesn't matter your full health. Do it for the fans.
Yeah, do it for the fans.
And he's going to have to use it now.
Cookie's going to connect onto Whitemon in the bot lane. Looks like he'll be safe. Using an Earth Spike to just try to trade a little bit of damage going their way. I mean, this is the lane we haven't talked about yet, but 23 Savage playing the Slark against a Tidehunter, which historically is pretty good for Slark in terms of the mid to late game once you get past the laning stage. Because you have just this fat tanky hero that you can just get stacks off of. Yeah. It's Cuckoo. Looks like FNG is going to take a tumble here. So first blood goes the way of T1 with the Enchant Totem. And actually the thing I have to hold that thought. Double Impale coming out from Whitemon again. S4 gets hexed, and there's the pounce. It does connect. Popping the wand, keeping alive a little bit longer, but 23 Savage. Well, actually it wasn't him. Whitemon somehow stole the kill from his position once.
I don't like that narrative, Shannon. It's not a steal.
He stole it.
It's not a steal when the support gets a kill. It's good. He did a good.
If you were a position 1 player, you would agree with me.
I am very much not a position 1 player.
I know.
And I'm all about the team.
Yeah.
Getting a good game for your support. He's going to pay it back to you later.
Yeah, we'll see.
He will do something with that gold that's going to make you really happy. Don't you worry.
Zephyr in the trees right now has his Nature's Grasp ready to go. Has 2 levels of Leech Seeds, so can do even better trading. So they're able to potentially find a kill there. FNG, obviously one of the slowest heroes in the game, is Nico Baby. Not a whole lot of mana to speak of. A nice fissure. Nico Baby forced to go up top. Enchant Totem is there, but don't think they'll get the kill. He's going to take heavy, heavy damage as a result of this. In fact, Zephyr might be the one in trouble. Okay. They're just going to turn it around. So Alliance getting their first kill of the game.
That looked good for T1 because the Fissure and Nature's Grasp were lined up so nicely, and there was no path for Nico Baby to take. He's just tanky enough, and obviously a little bit clunky with these two melee heroes walking in together, end up blocking each other. Can't really connect onto Nico Baby, and obviously the Crystal Maiden as well, doing a lot of work. Now FNG, however, is out of mana, and he does not have the aura yet, so he's going to send out 2 Mangoes as well as a Sage's Mask. So for a little bit of time, he will have some downtime here, but doesn't really matter. Kuku's just free farming closest tower anyway, and I don't think FNG could have done that much about it. So.
Yeah, you can see in terms of CS, Carl just slightly ahead of Limp right now as he's going to get the slide at Fizz. Here comes Zephyr from the side. Gets off the Nature's Grasp, going to slow a bit with that leash seed as well. Limp in quite a bit of trouble. Pops a Fairy Fire. TP support coming. Zephyr. Yeah, the last slide of Fizz, and now FNG might be in some trouble.
He's dead.
Double Remnant. Zephyr will be able to get him a couple right clicks along with the leech seed again coming online. So double kill for Carl to start this game. T1 doing very well. I was gonna, man, it's a good thing I didn't say it because that would be a caster's curse, but for the mid lane, Limp definitely off to a better start until that point.
Yeah. And now Carl is going to pull significantly ahead. He's level 6.5 against Limp's 5.75. I think Carl's net worth has to be up by a few hundred, 800 or 700, pardon me.
Yeah, Limp trying to get some retribution here onto Carl.
Oh, he does
get the
DD.
stun. Yeah, Carl needs to back up despite Whitemon being here. Well, never mind, Zephyr's on the high ground as well. It's a 3v1.
Oh, if Limp dies here, this is
he gets
so...
hexed as well. T1 looking for another kill on the mid laner for Alliance. Okay. Oh, he gets off. Oh, he's going to damage there, turning it around. Okay. Gets 2 kills before dying. At least get something out of it this time, Cinderman.
Talk about value Resonant Pulse. They thought they had the kill. You saw Carl already backing off. He was like, all right, Trey on the line, you just hit him once each, he's gonna die. He gets that damage block through that 2-hero Resonant Pulse connection, and then he gets level 6 from the first kill, so he can jump on the second kill as well. So a nice heads-up play there from Limp to get something out of that, because that looked like he was just completely doing bottom lane.
Absolutely.
23 Savage and Whitemon connecting on S4.
He's playing on the edge here, S4. A lot of stacks for 23 Savage now. Whitemon with Zephyr's company should be able to take S4 out. He gets off the gush, but won't be enough to find his way to get the kill on 23 Savage. Halfway to level 6, and once he gets to that point, it's going to be extremely hard to kill this Slark.
You know, dying as an offlaner with a creep wave like that, you're just so sad. Like 23 Savage just denied 4 creeps. He denied a full wave immediately after killing the Tide, and now he's just going to stabilize down here, find his level 6 very soon. It looks like Alliance will try to gank him before then, but keep in mind Slark has night vision, so your angles are a little bit more limited here. And 23 Savage even has a read that something could be coming his way, playing very cautiously. Might even take level 6 just from range without going for the CS. Oh, never mind. We'll be bullied away by S4 though.
Yeah, still level 5 on the Tidehunter. And as we talked about 23 Savage, this wave should give him level 6. He's given solo XP. There we go. So has his Shadow Dance to work with. Talk to me about... I mean, this looks like a really good Slark game, like theoretically, against Medusa, against Tide.
I think so too.
Anything else to say?
Like the panel said, honestly a little bit surprising maybe that Alliance let it through. You pick the Tide first phase. Yeah. Most teams go into bans here and ban the Slark. And then, okay, if you want to let that through, that's fine. But you also picked a carry that Slark loves facing, so you made this game even more enjoyable. And it's always important. Okay, hang on, Hanskin.
Whitemon's going to be there. So being able to clean him up pretty easily. A little bit late to the party is Limp. He gets a haster at the very least.
It's always important when you look at the draft and you look at how the lineups turn out and you're like, man, this hero's counterpicked by 3 picks that wasn't good. You always need to remember what the draft order is, right? Like, you're always giving away information based on pick order. So a lot of the times, even at the absolute highest level with the best drafters in the world, there's going to be heroes that are just hard countered in the game because they get shown early. And obviously that's why a lot of the time you show your support as one of your first 2, sometimes even both supports, so that the cores can have better conditions. But yeah, in this game you did first phase your offlaner, and then I feel like not fully protect him here on S4. So that could end up costing Alliance dearly. He will find his level 6 minute 9, which is not all that great. Kuku level almost 8 on the Shaker for comparison. And this is while I believe both position 4s on the, the respective 4s have the same experience as well. So it's just raw offlaner difference. It's not like one of the 4s just took a lot more experience in the lane, almost had stole. Bad influence from you there. It's not stealing, it's cooperative gameplay.
Okay,
we don't need to. We don't need to spread this agenda of playing cores against the supports even more than they already are in public games.
I mean,
okay?
to be fair, it's gotten a lot better over the course of the last few years because everybody's getting farmed now. Yep, we have the Hex to start things out from Whitemon. This might be another death. He keeps them alive a little bit longer, but not long enough. FNG not able to save his mid laner. Limp now with his 3rd death of the game. And like I said, in terms of the 1v1, he was doing great, but since these ganks have been coming, just feels like non-stop from T1, he's just been dying left and right.
And the concern I have right now for Alliance is, what's your move, right? You need to do something about this status quo. It's not favoring you. You have a Slark laning against Tide, he's happy. Shaker's laning against Medusa, he's also happy. He's just, like, Kuka's just farming lane and jungle. He's out farming the Medusa as Shaker in this lane effectively. His net worth being higher by about 300 right now. And as we've already covered, Karl is 5-0. So you're also losing it. So you have to make something happen in the game. This is not the kind of game where, oh, we'll just park, you know, we'll stack some Ancients, park Medusa mid, go farm the triangle, and then we're going to have this, like, strong timing, because in a few minutes, T1 is going to be running at you and pressuring you, and you're not going to get that area for free, so...
T1 getting credit for another kill. I mean, speaking of Ancients, there is a stack for Medusa to eventually take, but you can see that there's a somewhat aggressive ward also placed in that area for T1, so when that is being taken, they'll probably try to contest. 23 Savage. Trying to get some trade off here.
Might dive here. This is dangerous, though. Yeah, he's going to think twice
especially
about
with
it.
23 Savage having his ult, so a lot of passive regen now. Karl gets off the steering chains. S4 is going to apply the Ravage. He will save his life. Negatory. Sleight of Fish finishes him off. But Limp & Company might be able to get some beautiful trades here. Karl does one more Sleight of Fish, but dies shortly after. In the meantime, 23 Savage destroys Crystal Maiden despite getting that freezing field out for about a half a second. Hanskin looks to be next on the menu, but he doesn't get Cookie off in time. 23 Savage, okay, we have the Mortimer's Kisses from afar, but they're going to go for the Limp kill. They'll get it successfully. It'll cost him his life. But he does get the stack at the very least of Essence Shift. Nico Baby all alone in the mid lane, so this is exactly what Alliance needs.
Pretty good for Alliance overall here. It might have looked like a bad Ravage, but ultimately they do get pretty much value out of it, finding those 2 kills and almost a mid-tier 1 tower. Lovely play from Nico Baby, especially to make that judgment call as Medusa to go push mid minute 10. That is not an obvious choice to make in this game state, but looking at what was happening bottom, it was definitely the right call for him to go there and get as much out of it as he could. You know, you've got to be like a shark is what he says, and not exactly the most hyper-aggressive carry that can be like a shark that he's playing here, but he's finding as much food as he can there in the mid lane.
That's true. I mean,
very slow
when
Medusa.
I think of Nico Baby, I actually do think of Medusa because it's literally tattooed on his neck.
Yes,
so
that is true.
He has some sort of affinity with this hero syndrome, so we'll see how he performs this game. And tier 1 tower is pretty low on HP here, and T1 want to try to... Well, S4. I mean, this is what Tidehunter does. Just puts his fat-ass body here.
You're unlikely to access this tower without a siege creep against Tide with the heroes that you have right now. So S4 making the right call to go there, and then Nico Baby's back to the jungle, probably going to be looking at that Ancient stack. Might triple stack it here before 13 or even quad stack it. It is being pinged by Zephyr, so he kind of has the same read that, you know what? This is probably what Alliance are going to be looking to do next, and he's completely right. The stack is now coming in from Hanskin, so would imagine a smoke play could come up soon. I'm hearing a pick pull.
Yep, that was used to stack. Very important that he had pick pull to be able to pull that off successfully.
They didn't stack, did they?
Okay, good effort.
I think the timing was off.
Yeah, maybe. The pick pull needed to be activated about a half second earlier, Cinderin.
Maybe he activated pick pull and the Ancients got scared and ran back.
Yeah, they'd be scared by a thing for sure. S4, stuck inside the Nature's Grasp. Looks like he's going to be taken out. Does not have Ravage yet. Okay, never mind. Kraken Shield activates.
That's good call. FNG takes him out there. From the lane. Nova saves him. Very good.
It takes him out from the lane. Technically correct is always correct. Alliance looking to go on 23 Savage, who's very low on mana right now, but looks like
here comes T1. Dagger on Shaker. They want to jump lane.
Oh, Pounce not able to connect for 23 Savage. Cuckoo. Like you said, Blink Dagger's there. It gets the Enchant Totem off. And Limp Astral steps to safety. Does that have any more stacks, though? Another 6 seconds before it comes off cooldown. Mortimer gets his from afar. Very good. Actually, onto 3 heroes. T1 taking so much damage, but the Echo Slam is expended to at least get 23 Savage. It's going to be a trade for 3, though. Triple kill for Hanskin with a god tier Mortimer's Kisses.
Oh my god, can you imagine a damage breakdown on that one? 3k damage.
Not bad.
We're 14 minutes in. That is some sick value out of the kisses there. And yeah, T1, they were really looking for that Void Spirit kill, but unfortunately, Lion could not fully connect. I think maybe if Cuckoo Echo Slam's there, that could have bridged the gap, but understandably doesn't want to use it, and just really heads up play there from Hanskin to find that angle and get a big old off.
Yeah. Why is it called Mortimer's Kisses anyway?
Why not?
It should be like Mortimer's Belches or something, you know? Like he's not... I don't see the connection.
I know you really want to make belches happen in this game, but there's only one hero that has those, and that's Pudge, and that's probably going to stay that way.
It's too bad. This is one of the best Mortimer's Kisses we've seen this tournament for sure. Getting really big value out of that. Zephyr, Cookie connects on top of him. He's going to be taken out very quickly. Gets the overgrowth off. They got a little bit too confident. Finally gets taken out though, but the TPs are here from T1 trying to turn this around. Limp takes a tumble. 3 dead so quickly in favor of T1. Hanskin will get hecked as well.
Limp didn't finish the kill. He had the...
I mean, would that have made a difference, you think?
He thought the Trend was dying, so he used Dissimulate, right? And he jumped away.
Yeah, he thought he had it for sure.
Yeah, what ends up happening is that instead of killing Trend, he gets a 2-man ulti on. That allows his entire team to connect on both of them, so definitely going to be regretting that. Like, you probably have casualties there regardless, even if you do kill off the Trend with that Dissimulate, but at the very least, both not you and Tide, you don't both get caught. And it forced them to Ravage, right? Like, that's the thing. S4 popped the Ravage because he was like, okay, I have to kill the Trend because we didn't get it done with the Void Spirit. And then he doesn't have the Ravage when all of T1 connects. So honestly, kind of a huge mistake there for Alliance that ends up costing them a lot.
As you can see, T1 taking the lead in terms of just the net worth alone. Diffusal Blade now online for 23 Savage.
He is strong.
Yep, going for the BKB next, so looking to fight pretty early. Has 7 stacks already of Essence Shift, actually.
If he has BKB, he only needs to worry about 1 spell for the entire BKB duration. That's Stone Gaze. Nothing else is going to touch him at all. They don't have significant single target damage. That's one of the things you trade off when you pick Medusa. She's a very good spread damage carry, but doesn't until very late start having that heavy single target because your natural buildup will favor split shot for the farming, and you don't get like something like first item Daedalus or whatever, right? Like not that any carry does that, but you get the idea. It takes time. You need 3 or 4 items before you truly start just standing your ground against Slark. So with that BKB, he can feel very, very safe. Oh, he's actually maybe getting eyes on Nico Baby here with that night vision. He sees him.
Yeah.
But it's going to leech a bit of the experience.
Ancients are taken out for Nico Baby, so at least that is not contested.
He's going to wrap around. He will see Hanskin here. He saw the Solar Crest being used, and that means Hanskin has no defensive capability from that. No plus armor.
Will just cookie himself to the high ground, though. And we see the Stone Gaze going up with a nice fissure blocking him up. Cuckoo in the meantime, looks like that's going to be the sacrifice. Fissures and dies. So not the setup that T1 was looking for. A good defense from Alliance.
Yep. As I've talked about in a previous cast, I always wonder, it gives an insight into what players are thinking when they ping heroes like this. He just pinged Snapfire Medusa.
Looks like Zephyr is going to die. Gets off the overgrowth, but 100 seconds of none of that for him. Okay, I was gonna say, I don't want to jinx it anymore. I'm very hesitant now. That took quite a while, which maybe not so good a sign for Alliance, but they're not too far behind right now, so definitely can find an avenue back in the driver's seat for this game.
Yeah, this bottom tower is definitely gone. Nico Baby's going to take that, working on his Scotty. He went for SNY. Opting not to go Manta against Treant, which I think a lot of Medusas would. Overgrowth is very annoying to deal with for carries in general. Sometimes in the past we've even seen carries go Manta BKB first too, just to deal with Treant on a hero like, for example, Troll Warlord, who's totally dependent on able to attack in his ult. But
Overgrowth, Searing Chains, there's a couple things to take off here.
I feel like Manta would have a lot of value here, but Nico, maybe he feels like there's too much, so he'd rather have the status resistance, so at least he gets rid of them faster than having that one quick removal. I could see the logic in that as well. You're playing against Shaker and Lion, that's just too much, probably. So I kind of like this way of approaching it instead of the Manta.
I like how we just went through a little mind experiment where you've convinced yourself after talking. It's good to see.
Yeah, it's
very open mind. You're able to convince yourself of something else if you want. Looks like Crystal Maiden is done. FNG trying to get the D ward.
That is
The
how
words
all
shall
machine
remain.
learning works, by the way. I train against myself and come to a conclusion.
Yeah,
So
that is quite that's shockingly accurate and disturbingly accurate, in fact. Nico Baby, like you said, working on the Scotty now. As Alliance trying to stave off elimination here in game number 2 of this best of 3. S4 trying to TP out, but the pounce will cancel. Whitemon in vicinity as well.
S4 trying to run.
Yeah, he's attempting it. He's not going to move.
S4 trying to
sack
cast
for
the spell.
Thank you for the commentary, Cinderin, as always.
S4 trying to respawn.
I would love for you to cast a team fight. Just
Cinderin trying to
robot
cast.
voice, robot cast. Sounds good to me. 23 Savage now. Still a ways away from the BKB.
FNG.
Yeah, that's another death for him. 23 Savage now with 9 permanent stacks of Essence Shift. Gonna harass Nico Baby a bit.
Free stack.
Yeah, and of course you can see the power of Slark against the Medusa just drains the mana so much faster, especially with the Diffusal Blade on top of that.
We did say it was going to be a hard maiden game, man. FNG is just... I don't know, I'm not in the booth. I would imagine he's not particularly having fun. Not seeing a lot of voice lines, not seeing a lot of laughing. Also can't see him, so that would probably be a little bit hard to see, but
true.
It is it's tough being a maiden in this game. And in hindsight, you know, Alliance, when they picked it, perhaps this is one of those picks that's easier to criticize, because with the information they had available at the time, you set up even more for a good Slark game because he's good against Maiden, right?
Yeah.
And the heroes that you saw at that given point in time was, I think, Treant, Lion, Shaker, which, from my perspective, Crystal Maiden doesn't perform particularly well against. So maybe you were just really hungry for the aura for your Void Spirit and Dusa. But yeah, tough game for FNG, that's for sure.
No doubt. We got the
finally gets the D ward. He fought hard for that one.
It's so hard to ward against a Slark. The fact that he just knows that there's vision in the area, especially with the pro. I mean, in pubs maybe it doesn't matter as much depending on the skill level, but pro games it is so difficult.
Yeah. It's honestly one of the, like, that's what makes Slark such a powerful hero when it's a good pick against the enemy, is the added benefits. It's the fact that you get a hero that can find wards and has 1800 night vision. Just a super crucial part at the highest level of engaging fights, getting information for free, making the right decisions. A lot of the time, Slark actually ends up winning the game because he has information that other carriers just wouldn't have in the same position, and you just make one good call that wins you a team fight and gets you Roche. Just flat out off Shadow Dance and nothing else. So, yeah.
And Cuckoo has his Ags on the way, so we'll be able to use Enchant Totem to initiate along with the Blink. Yeah, position 3 Earthshaker always feels pretty good because you can get these items really fast compared to what we're used to. Oh, they're going to see a big collision here. Yeah, that's true. Fake Grenade on Earthshaker, pretty disgusting. S4 trying to tank things up as the initiation comes. Carl, let's see the BKB picked up, or popped by 23 Savage, going to town on S4 in the meantime. You can see Ember Spirit creating so much space on the back line. Nico Baby forced his ult out. Now Hanskin, not quite going to die here. It's nice taunt onto Carl, but there's the double kill with the Sleight of Fist. He's taking a lot of damage, though. Can he get out in time? It's 23 Savage just focusing on Nico Baby. There's the overgrowth to keep them in place. There's so many stacks now, but finally the Ravage comes out onto S4, but it's not going to matter, Cinderin. This is going to be a full team wipe for T1, and they barely took any damage.
It's such a godly fight from Carl. He just does everything right. You see, the fight breaks out. They see the tide, and he gets a little bit of vision on the backline supports. He literally zoned 2 heroes on his own, killed them both, and then lived after. Like, you can't ask for more out of an Ember Spirit in a game like this. I'm not going to say he single-handedly won the fight, but he definitely spearheaded it. So you're going to see the replay here. S4 goes out and breaks the smoke. They're going to poke him a little bit here with Slight Chains. And as soon as Carl sees the backline here, he's just immediately going to go in, BKB up, kill Maiden instantly. Not that that's too big of an accomplishment, but then he's going to go on to the next targets. Notice how Snap can't play. Like, Hanskin can't play his hero here. He then kites away. This starts looking dodgy. Good Slight. And then ultimately gets to reset position. The Hex there at the bottom of your screen onto the Void Spirit, keeping Carl alive. So really good teamwork in that.
Yeah, just sealed it right there. As we see FNG now, it's up the freezing kill for just a little bit, but not resulting in a kill as of yet. Zephyr still more than healthy. Yeah, divide and conquer right there with that fissure.
Alliance are just not finding moments right now. And while Nico Baby is really farmed this game and is having a good time, the rest of the team are just lacking severely behind based on the nature of the game. Like, yeah, you're going to be able to farm on at least one core in most games like this, but Medusa can't carry this game on her own. There needs to be more damage than just that split shot. And right now, Void Spirit, what are you sitting on? You have not even a Kaya Sanj, but a 24 Limp, having a very tough game here. Lower net worth than the 3 Tide, who's 0-6 in the off lane. Limp 2-7 on Void. And S4 with Hood, Halberd, at least has some sort of defensive tool against that Slark. But the problem is you can outlast, but can you even kill? That doesn't make sense. Outlast was the wrong word. Okay, Nico.
Makes a lot of sense. Nico Baby. He gets off his ult. They're just going to try to withstand it. FNG and company have come to help out as well. Slaggerfish took so much damage. FNG again dead. No big surprise. There's the Searing Chains now. Nico Baby trying to stay alive, but it looks like the right clicks will come through. 23 Savage getting that one with the BKB activated, and they're not done yet. Looks like Hansking is next on the list as S4 and Alliance are starting to crumble here, Cinderin. T1 looking primed to take this series 2-0. They lose one. It's only Cuckoo.
6 for 1.
6 for 1. That is true. Dieback on FNG. And into the Roche Pit, T1 goes. You see a replay here. The initiation on to Nico. I mean, the fact that you have a here again, we talked about this before, but Slark against Medusa just feels incredible. Yeah. Like, is there a better like a carry versus carry matchup for against Medusa?
I think
it's up there.
I think Slark has to be one of the best. I think Ursa deserves an honorable mention just because of how much mana burn he can get out so fast with the power, but yeah, it's definitely up there. And like you said, Slark being one of the best. We can go back to the draft all we want. Obviously, the game is being played out right now, but probably something that Alliance aren't too happy about. Someone who is happy there, though, Zephyr, definitely having a great time. They chose to give him Treant this game. I think he's done an excellent job. In all honesty, it doesn't feel like Treant has been the absolutely most integral reason why this lineup has worked, though. It's something to think ahead for the other teams that are very likely to face T1 now, as Alliance are very much on the back foot, but perhaps prioritizing other bans against this team could be worth it. Look at that change in just the last 9 minutes.
Yeah.
Slark and company are up with a 19-1 chance of winning.
Yeah, that is rough stuff. 94% win rate, or win probability for T1. Still 4 minutes to go with the Aegis, so plenty of time for T1 to, farm the map. Make sure that Alliance gets kind of starved out of the areas that they want to farm, and eventually go high ground. They don't have the best high ground, again, we've talked about this before, but T1's lineup, that's, I guess, one of the negatives coming out of it, but
they have so much safety on their course. That's the thing. Like, Slark and Ember can farm hyper aggressively because Alliance's ways of killing them are super limited. I honestly think you can't kill either Slark or Ember without Ravage.
Yeah, you need Ravage.
You can't chain stun long enough, and S4 doesn't have dagger.
The thing that they're missing, I mean, again, this is hindsight, but burst damage against Slark would be very nice in a scenario.
Oh, here we go.
Yep. Jump in from Carl. Looks like FNG is just going to die. No, actually lives with barely an HP, and then finally gets taken out first as Carl will go back to safety. 23 Savage on the back line now, trying to target Limp. You see the fissure come out as well. BKB dodging the Ravage as a result. Limp is going to stay alive though. Mortimer skits this from afar. Cuckoo taking the brunt of the damage here. Looks like he's going to drop the first to fall for T1, but 23 Savage looks perfectly healthy for now. Pops his ult.
He still
gets one kill. Nico Baby, very low on mana, which means he is very susceptible to die here, Cinder. And 23 Savage resetting, going back in, buyback. You see the mana drain coming from Whitemon as well. Nico Baby pops the wand, but to little avail. Zephyr does get off his ult, but the finger of death taking Nico Baby out in spades. No buyback for him. You see a nice freezing field come out, but it's going to result in the kill of Carl. In the meantime, beautiful S4 on the run. Trying to get back into this base. Is 23 Savage not scared of anything because that Aegis is still intact.
That was maybe a little bit too cute there from Savage, but he's obviously able to reset out of here. Guess how long would he have had on the Aegis? That was still a good 2 minutes left on that. It was maybe a little bit unnecessary, but
2 for 2 with the. I mean, that was a pretty long fight, and only 2 died for Alliance. You got to be happy with that. Although Nico Baby is the one that has to survive in these fights.
Yeah. If they could have got away with that, losing any other hero than Nico, and he gets 1 or 2 kills, is probably a net win. But like this, it kind of turns into a draw. You got to keep in mind, Slark is getting a lot of those stacks now. 16 permanent agility on Savage. Usually you've got to pay good amounts of gold for this.
Yeah,
that's just another, like, add that to the pile of benefits that this hero has that we talked about, right?
Yeah, but there are a lot of Slark games that are not good, right?
Yeah.
Like, it does take a certain lineup for it to really shine.
Oh, he
unlike
is
some other
looking.
carries.
He knows they don't see him. Shadow Dance is active.
Yeah. Has his shard, by the way, so has the depth shroud to be able to use on teammates or himself.
Yeah.
Basically like a free ult. S4 up. He's going to get pounced on. I think 23 Savage is just trying to get away. And he will be successful at that either way.
They're just going to full reset. They don't have Carl. So we'll wait up. Carl's going to go top, start pushing that out. Obviously with that Ags can connect pretty quickly. Going to clean up that wave very fast with double Remnant.
Yeah, working on the refresher. Already has the Ags in his inventory. So we'll be zipping all over the place. The win probabilities actually changed slightly in Alliance's favor in the last couple minutes.
1% down.
Yep.
All right, just another 50 good team fights, and then we're there.
Well, I mean, they do have good team fight, to be fair, but the problem is really is Ember Spirit on the back line just killing supports.
This is definitely doable, and what it's going to come down to is ideally that T1 go on Nico Baby, and you get to play your other heroes effectively, right? One of the big differences in that fight, like you pointed out, was that there was actually decent freezing field for once, and it makes a huge difference. That's what ended up killing Carl. He wasn't expecting that burst of damage coming in from the tree line, so if you do set it up here for Alliance, it could work. Okay, instantly breaking the smoke.
Yeah, Shadow Blade. Nice. Got the ensnare coming out as well. BKB, there's the Echo Slam onto 2. Limp already dead in this engagement. 2 dead for Alliance to start this fight out. Nico Baby getting mana drain for a little. 23 Savage now just focusing on Nico Baby along with Cuckoo getting the stun. Now we see how that Sinister this works from this time. But the mana drain from that defusal and the Essential stacks are just getting out of control for T1. They only lose their support Lion and get 4 kills as the trade. And T1 looking to go high ground. There is a buyback on Nico Baby, but will it matter? The building damage is now coming through.
At the very least, that glyph kills off the siege creep, but this Slark with current 18 permanent agility and 68 stolen.
Pretty good.
Very fast.
See the halberd being used, but this will be a full set of mid-racks in all likelihood for T1. So we're going to give some free stacks to 23 Savage. And T1 going to bide their time here, Cinderin. Like I said, these matches are just so important. You cannot give up leads like so. Likely to play quite disciplined, potentially even waiting for the second Roche.
Yeah, it's not far away. The early respawn is in less than 2 minutes. So definitely is a possibility. I think T1 can just take this top tier 2 tower without too much worry. Carl is going to go and take care of that.
Yep.
And Savage will also be farming up the Ancient camp on the Dire side. The whole triangle, as a matter of fact. FNG, I feel like I've seen him make this play like 7 times this game. Go to that cliff, play sentry, use a Nova, a D-ward, and go away. And he's died 2 or 3 times there. This time doesn't die, but unfortunately also doesn't find any ward. But whenever you find yourself D-warding that spot multiple times in a row in a game, you know what kind of game it is. Like, that spot is about the most offensive ward you can possibly place as Radiant that is not inside the enemy base.
Yeah.
So pretty indicative of the game state for Alliance. They're just cornered completely.
You can see Nico Baby going for the Divine Rapier, Cinderin. Still about 3k away from finishing it.
You gotta do it, honestly. You have to take that risk. Savage gonna find Limp. Oh, the tower though.
And Limp has to Astral 7. Uses both, in fact, just to make sure he doesn't take another death to his name. And yeah, map control firmly in T1's favor right now, as we likely wait for the next Roche. So in 30 seconds, we'll find out when that will actually spawn. FNG trying to get some map control back, but it feels like he's just died every time he's attempting this.
Yeah.
Poor lad.
And they know the ward is there because of Shadow Dance, so get rid of that immediately. Nico Baby is exposed here. Alliance are trying to bait him. They really want this fight where they go on Nico. They feel like it's their only chance, and I agree with this 100%.
Smoke up as well. And Already gets popped. Ravage comes out from S4. 23 Savage does take considerable damage, but again, FNG dies at the beginning of the fight. Carl, look at how much space he's creating. Just absolutely decimates Hanskin with just his remnants. Whitemon jumps in with the face TI-10 after this fight. Medusa takes a tumble, triple kill for Carl, and S4 finally goes down. He's the only remaining member for Alliance. They call GG, and T1 moves on. Cinderin, Alliance out.
Yeah, there's just no doubt about it after watching these two games. T1 just clearly the better team at this event. Alliance got completely rolled both games. There was some There's like that one fight around the 10-minute mark. This game it's the Snapfire triple kill bottom. The last game there was, I think I was actually also in the bottom area that the fight happened that went well for Alliance. But aside from that, T1 just, you know, they rolled them. Like, there isn't really that much to say. They beat them in all aspects of the game. I like their drafts. They play better in lanes. They play better in the mid game. They got the Roche. They won the team fight. What was a bright spot for Alliance in this series? I'm really struggling to find it, which is a shame, because even if you lose and go out, if you put up a good fight or you look good while losing, just wasn't really their day this time.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, they did pick Medusa, which is a comfort pick for Nico Baby. The fact that it's literally tattooed on his neck, I would hope that's a comfort here when he looks in the mirror every day. But sad to see Alliance go, obviously, because they've had a long road here, and unfortunately doesn't work out. But T1 moves on, and they've looked extremely good thus far.
They look like a team that's going to go further than top 8.
Yes. I mean, a lot of people thought that going in, but we talked about this before. They kind of peaked at the Ana Major, and then since then they tapered off a bit, and then the beginning of the group stage here, they didn't do too well, but have bounced back with a vengeance. So we'll see how far they can go. But with that, let's see what the panel has to say about this resulting series, and T1 moving on.
Thank you very much, Sunspan and Cinderin. And to be honest, Cinderin basically summed up that match for us. I think our work's done, boys. Should we just... No? Okay, fine. We'll talk about things. I think we should talk about Carl, because Carl had a fantastic game one on that Lena mega farm. But in game 2, it was even more impressive.
He was just completely dominant. From the get-go, from the one-on-one matchup on that mid lane versus Limp. But then again, a couple of supports rotating in, helping him out. He gets level 6 before Limp does, and he just dominates throughout the game. He's so decisive, so clinical in the way he fights his team fights. Always instantly jumps into the backlines, eliminates Hansken, eliminates FNG, and from then on, the game is much, much easier for them.
And the T1 supports were so good enabling. I feel like so many Treant protectors you see, they're like, oh, you know, I'm going to sit, passively play the side lane, then my core is going to go and I get to farm. No, Zephyr is rotating mid, collapsing on that mid lane as well. So I love the way the supports really try and set up Carl for success.
Well, right now we have got Avo on the sidelines. He's got FNG from Alliance to see what just happened in that game.
Thank you, Frankie. I am here with FNG. Thank you for your time, FNG. So I just want to ask you, what's going through your mind right now?
Well, losing sucks. You know, it's like I can't really tell anything else, but because I mean it is what it is. You know, we lost. We were way worse than enemy, I would say. I mean they played well, and yeah, good luck, T1.
T1 is a scary team, this TI, right? There must be some pride in losing to a strong team.
I mean, yeah, of course, it's like it takes a lot of pride also to say that they're a strong team, you know, as well. But yeah, I mean, I would say we're just not happy with ourselves more than looking at our opponent, you know, this type of feeling we get.
So what do you do now after a loss? How's the way do you recover?
I mean, I guess we just let time do his thing, you know.
All right. Anything you'd like to say to the Alliance fans out there?
Yeah, sorry guys, we tried our best, and thank you for your support.
Thank you, FNG, and we're going to go back to the panel.
Thank you very much, guys. And the odds were against Alliance in that matchup, so they shouldn't be feeling too bad about themselves right now. And you know what? Someone who definitely shouldn't feel bad about themselves is Hansken, because actually there were some great moments from him. Really, really good opportunities with Mortimer's kisses there. There was a great 3v1 situation, easy triple kill, punishing T1. You were definitely impressed, Zed.
Yeah, he did a ton of work, and I believe he's basically the main reason why Carl had to play the way he played, constantly breaching those backlines, because if he didn't, Hansken would continue dominating teamfights. He was demolishing T1 in a couple of those early engagements with Mortimer's kisses, hiding in the trees, and he's positionally an extremely good player. Sadly, in this game, it just wasn't good enough.
And unfortunately, I think some of the other Alliance players didn't set up. We saw S4, game 1 is Sand King just having a really rough lane. Another kind of poor game from him. And Lim not going for Yule's Scepter against an Ember. The reason I think Ember has such a free, amazing game is because what's going to kill him? Like, well, firstly, there's nothing to kill the Slark, and then you have this Ember who doesn't have to worry about any kind of Yule's Remnant catch. It just made Carl's game so easy.
So what's the future for Alliance?
Possible roster changes, possible... I mean, maybe they stick together. Depends how they feel about, you know, whether or not they can work out their issues. I think they don't have the right pieces to be like a true title contender myself. But I don't know. Yeah, it really comes down to what Alliance is looking for.
Yeah, it's a really tough situation to be in. They did win one best-of-1 in the lower bracket, got out instantly after in the next series, but... Then again, T1 is looking really strong. There's a reason why this man has them as the champions in his predictions. So
yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about that after seeing them play again today. I mean, it's like, I don't know. These guys, they're really going to go all the way. They took a game off LGD. Sure, they got knocked down, but this sort of performance, I think if you're in the lower bracket, you've got to be very, very scared of going head-to-head with T1 down.
Oh, we should have...
They're going to hit hard.
Apologies for interrupting you, but you said the word bracket and I went, oh, we can have a look at those. So let's take a look, first of all, at the upper bracket, because that's where we're going to be heading later. So your bracket overview there. You can see how many teams are remaining. Vici versus EG is coming up next. T1, they want to face Evil Geniuses, but Vici are going to have something to say about that in the lower bracket. Goodness, that looks absolutely terrifying, Owen, that lower bracket.
And honestly, I know we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, and I know it's the upcoming series, but to say something quick, I think T1 will get that EG matchup. I think it's going to happen. I think Vici's looking to do shaky. Ori yesterday, he was not having a great time mid. That's not going to cut it against EG. I know it's a different series, but to go back to that interview where Cuckoo said he wanted to meet them in the finals, it's not going to be possible, but I think he will meet them in the next round of the lower bracket.
Okay, so hypothetically, in that lower bracket, we've got OG, EG. Obviously, we do have Spirit as well. I don't want to count them out completely. But then we've got T1. So out of those 4, whose chances do you rate, Gods?
I'm going to still stick with EG. I think they've shown... I think they have the consistency that you need in the lower bracket. You can't just be this team that's trying to play super flashy, and you're never going to be able to make those super risky plays. I think that's why OG really shined when they were in the winner bracket. To me, EG stand out the team that's going to figure out their stable drafts and figure out a way to win games.
So, EG, you predicting them to knock OG out?
Maybe Spirit will knock OG out.
Oh, yeah.
They could. Are you standing by that prediction right now? On the desk? Lock it in?
What, for who?
That Spirit are going to beat OG?
Maybe.
Yeah,
honestly,
Owen,
maybe.
you said it.
I don't know. I said, well, sure. Yeah, Spirit. Yeah, good luck, OG.
It's all right.
No, Spirit's looking really, really good. They really, really are. They look fantastic on previous lands. Now they've come out here. Sure, it was a bit of a knockdown, but the wins that they're having, they look hot. If they can keep their cool, absolutely. Spirit can definitely stand a good chance against OG.
It's okay. I was going to cut you off and let Sir Action Slacks save you, but I thought I'd let you continue that one. You were quite convincing by the end of it. Okay, Sir Action Slacks, who have you got on the sidelines for us?
Oh, my friend, I have a real treat for you. We have Zephyr coming out of a fantastic series there. Man, you guys, first couple days of groups, lose, and you've been on a win streak ever since. Have not dropped a single game. What happened?
I think every T1 fans know it's like we always start so slow. Even us, it's like as the player, we don't know how to fix it.
Well, you seem to fix it. You might have started off so-so. You're ending strong. You know, I got to talk to you about being one of the first Indonesian players to ever get to the International with Whitemon. And now you're here representing not only C, but Indonesia itself. So I just want to give you the floor. Any words to the fans out there that are watching?
Okay, can I speak with bahasa?
Absolutely, please.
Okay. Mama, aku di TI.
I understood that, dude. I mean, come on. It was 2 words. No, but so you guys feeling confident moving in the uppers? Are you ready for your next match? All right. Well, that's fantastic. Sir, keep on that win streak. It's been absolutely a pleasure watching T1, and we will see more of them coming up soon. But for now, back to you.
Mama made it to TI.
That's a dream right there for many of us, for many of players that have been in that spot. That's a dream, getting to TI.
Making your mum proud.
Making your mum. Oh,
My mum doesn't even know what esports is. She has no idea I'm in Romania right now. Anyway, less of my sob stories, and instead, let's remember the good old times, because it's time to ask the players what they remember.